ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's continued coverage of Season 65 of the Road to Gaming Barebones Racing Series. Tonight it is race number 6, as drivers prepare to take to the 2.5-mile triangular speedway known as Pocono. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Sean Prime, and Sean, you know that when there's a racetrack that's given a nickname, that usually it's going to have a characteristic all its own. They don't call this the Tricky Triangle for nothing.
They certainly do not, and good evening, Seth. It is the Tricky Triangle. It is the Technical Triangle as well. 3 different corners, 3 different agendas on each corner. They're tricky, they're technical, and quite often they are calamity corners. So we're going to see what we're going to get tonight.
3 rather low-banked corners as well in terms of the degrees. Turn 1, the highest amount of banking, 14 degrees, fashioned after Trenton Speedway. Turn 2, known as the tunnel turn, 8 degrees of banking, maybe the fastest corner of the 3, fashioned after Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then turn 3, 6 degrees of banking, the flattest. We're going to see a lot of multi-groove racing, maybe not necessarily for battling, but just in the fact of how your approach is for the entry of that corner. That's fashioned after the Milwaukee Mile. And with that being said, 3 entirely different corners. A lot of people talk about the difficulties of this track because you can nail 1 corner, you can maybe nail 2 corners, but very seldom does a driver in the span of a lap nail all 3 corners.
And it's going to take all 3 to take the checkered flag tonight. Guys here are experienced. They're great. It is Pocono. You deal with everything that is Pocono, but you can't take a corner off here against this crowd. It just doesn't work. You've got to make little sacrifices here and there, but turn 3 is the most critical because that launches you down that giant long pond stretch. And if you're going to do any passing on the straightaways tonight, that's your best place to do it. But anytime you can get a run off one of these turns, even on the short chute coming out of the tunnel to get track position, you're going to want to take that chance because even though this place is big, it's long, it's wide, it's crazy on the straightaway, track position still somehow rules here.
It always seems like as well, off the corner, the track seems to narrow up before you get to one of those 3 straightaways. We've got our camera focused here on pit road, and a lot of times we talk about pit strategy when it comes to a track like this. Depending on where you are in the field under green flag conditions, you can come down pit road, make a 4-tire pit stop, return to the track, and still be on the lead lap. That's very rare in speedway racing. How does that come into play here, especially if we get into some really lengthy green flag runs?
Well, fuel strategy was the next thing I was going to talk about, and just you can run it like a road course. Exactly. Fit windows open. You can take your chances. There's almost guaranteed to be cautions, but this is the place you do not want to do 2 things here. You do not want to run out of fuel ever here, and you do not want to speed up pit road here. It is long and it is tenuous.
Had some rather big racetracks here in the middle portion of the schedule here for the regular season, coming off the heels of last week, the 2-mile speedway / super speedway at Michigan, where we saw Jeremy Jeffries take his 3rd win on the season. And we'll have to see drivers that had some momentum coming from that into this one. But last week at Michigan, one of the big things that we talked about was cold tires. Seemed to be a big issue for drivers on the restarts. What about at a track like here? How much do you think cold tires would come into play in regards to the approach for turn 1? Or is this a racetrack where that might not necessarily be a talking point?
Well, it is definitely a talking point. This is what we call the grip version of Pocono. We used to run a different one, but the last few times by, we've been running this version, and that does a few extra things. And one of the main things it does is add some tire temperature. Tire wear is certainly going to be there. It's Pocono. You're just burning the right front off in these turns, but tire temperature is going to climb quickly here. So tire management, fuel management, crowd management, it's going to be all on the table tonight.
It's going to be a wild one. Drivers will prepare for 70 laps here this evening. And of course, as well, we talk all about those valuable stage points. Lap 35, midway point, conclusion of lap 35, I should say, is when the top 10 will get stage points. And we would kind of look at the point standings coming into this one. Jeremy Jeffries, 3-time winner of the season, still not the points leader. The guy that's been gobbling up those stage points has been Josh Metallic, and he still sits at the top of the board.
And I'm going to give you some breaking news. Both those names you mentioned, not in the field tonight.
Woo! Knew about Jeremy, didn't know about Josh.
Yep, I heard from Josh earlier. Josh does not make the field tonight, so there will be some scrambling going on.
So I'm not going to take credit for a commentator's curse, but I did think this before we came on the air. Those two drivers coming into this race were the only two that have finished in the top 5 in every single race so far in the regular season. Those streaks will be snapped here tonight as drivers get ready to grid up. 28 drivers in the field here this evening. We talked about the big field last week at Michigan, the big field at Nashville. There's a lot of points on the table, and as you said, with the top 2 in points not in the field here this evening, could be a lot of moving and shaking around the top 12 in overall standings. Our 3 previous winners on the season, 2 of them starting up here on the inside of rows 1 and 2 respectively, all inside the top 12 in points, so no drivers at this point in time would need to get in through a wild card spot with a previous checkered flag. So we'll be keeping an eye, especially on the drivers that are around that cut line, that 12th in the standings cut line coming into this evening's event. Before we end up getting the command to fire the engines here as well, another thing that we didn't really talk about, but I think this is a racetrack, especially as we talked about how you have to be technical in working through traffic. Track position, starting track position, very important at a track like this. A lot of big names starting deep in the field. It is 70 laps though, so does that give a little bit of a luxury to be patient?
It does, and this is a track that you really want to try to be patient at. Again, passing is not at a premium, and so when the opportunities present, you need to be ready to take them. But besides that, you need to let this race try to unfold. That's what we always try to preach to these guys. But as they pace around, there's not much that prepares them for what's going to happen on lap 1 when they're all together, probably for the very first time tonight, in that big draft, if they make it through turn 1. If they go down the Long Pond Straight and make it through the tunnel turn, which we know is going to be really crazy on the first lap, when they get to turn 3, it's often anybody's guess. They know it. You're always waiting it. You expect it because that first time you're carrying more speed than you used to, you're probably not going to get to brake where you wanted to because there's going to be a checkup. How that gets handled and sorted out is one of the most treacherous things in sim racing and probably real racing too. Turn 3 at Pocono, not a lot of fun on the first lap.
I don't know, Sean. That seemed like an awful lot of ifs in just one lap here at Pocono, but hopefully these guys could be able to work it out as Jeff Supta's special scheme here tonight puts it on the pole position. He'll have Ulysses Sandoval to the outside of him on that front row. Nick Gunther and Ron Hagelin going to make up row number 2. Row 3 finds Grant Wesley, who's third in points, so he's a driver with the top 2 in the overall stands, looking to maybe head into next week the new points leader, so looking for that first checker flag in the season as well. He'll share row 3 with Glenn Harris. Jim Gloud and Randy Waugh, they're back in row 4. Tim Nofsker, Rodney Sullins, row 5, completing the top 10. Row 6 will be Ronald Lucey and Andre Charest, Dave Melson, Greg Palmer in row 7. Bob Dixon, Colin Flick leading the Challenger points. They're back in row 8. Denny Carroll, Cy Jones in row 9. The top 20 complete with Frank Rivard and Billy Elliser. Row 11 finds Brian Schilling and Brian Rawson. Row 12 with Dave Robbins, Bob LaChance. Mark Paglia, Dennis McCarthy, they're back in row 13 and making up the 28 car field here tonight in row 14. John Godfrey and Bobby Farrell. Well, it's the tricky triangle, and they got to try and conquer it for 70 circuits here this evening. Jeff Supta, Ulysses Sandoval, bring us down. We're green at Pocono.
They're going to head down that giant long front stretch, and they're already looking to fan out 3 wide, but it looks like 2 by 2 at the front as we head down into turn 1.
Supta will have that early advantage. The inside line, one car, I think that was Sandoval, up and actually into the wall there, entering into the first corner. So top 3 will be Supta, Gunther, and Wesley heading down towards the tunnel turn.
This is where it could get real tricky here. Long Pond straightaway feeds them into the tunnel turn here. They want to really be single file here on the first lap. You can get too wide here, but you just try, and it looks like they're nice and single file, and here they all come to turn 3. It looks like most of the field makes it through the tunnel, and here we go.
Into the lowest banked corner here. This is one of the toughest corners on the circuit. Different lanes can be run, different momentum can be gained off the corner depending on how quickly you get back to the throttle. Supta got away. Wesley was able to pull up to the back bumper of Nick Gunther. Now that'll be the battle for second. Gloud now has a bumper full of Nofsker. That'll be for the 4th position as Supta will lead the first lap.
Looks like we got a challenge for second position as Grant tries to go inside of Nick Gunther in the 55 Square D machine, and they're going to be side by side coming out of one, and the draft will control here. Let's see where they line up, and they're going to have to sort this out in the tunnel, or they'll go 2 by 2, and these guys can do it just fine. Looks like Jim Gloud is going to, they're stacking up to the inside because that's the preferred route, but Nick's going to take a good line through the outside, and yeah, he closes the door.
Like Grant maybe got a little loose down there on the bottom, so I'll try and gather up the rear end of that race car. Slips back into the third spot with Jim Gloud now throwing a little half block on Nofsker, who peered to the inside, going here into 3, maybe trying to get the 72 to have a little look in his rearview mirror. Now he'll try and draw up to that left rear quarter panel down the front straightaway. He's there, but I don't think he's got quite the momentum, not quite got the draft, gonna have to tuck back in line.
That's where it's so tough to do. You can get side by side in 3, but momentum off and the draft is going to be the key of whether you're going to complete that pass or not. Speaking of completing passes, looks like second time around, Grant Wesley has just taken over second place from Nick Gunther.
Talked about fuel. What about tires? How badly do you need to preserve tires for the long run here, especially with the fact that we always seem at Pocono to see drivers get really tight off of the corner, specifically here off of turn 2. I mentioned this is one of the faster corners of the 3, and with that being said, drivers have more of a tendency to want to get back to the throttle sooner, and sometimes that right front grip is just not there, and the thing goes straight and into the wall heading off that second corner.
And that, more often than not, is a product of tire temperature. You want to manage the wear as well, because I said these grip tracks, it's almost like they add a little sandpaper to it for grip, but it's also abrasive as heck. So if you lock them up going into pit road, you better get 4 tires because they're going to wear them out. Same thing here. The harder you hit these turns, the quicker you're going to build that tire temp. I was talking to Jeff Suta before, and he was doing some mock runs, and he was hitting 220 on his right front after one hard lap. So you've got to keep an eye on managing. And speaking of keeping an eye on it, Grant Wesley, he's hungry. He's looking for the lead, gets a great run going down the Long Pond Straight, and he looks like he's going to have preferred position going into Jeff in the tunnel.
That was an incredible amount of momentum he was able to generate from the center of 1 to the exit, and there you see, completes the pass before they even exit out of the tunnel turn. Supta going to cross him over here, headed for 3. Gunther looking on in the third spot. Gloud looks like he might have thoughts about the third spot there for a moment. Took a peek out. And look at Grant running up there a little bit higher through turn 3. As I mentioned, it is multi-groove here through this final corner, but more so for the comfort level of where you want to be able to have your car run, how soon you want to get back to the throttle, all those different things, more so than making a pass in that corner. Really, if you're going to make a pass in turn 3, you're making it when somebody else makes a mistake.
That's exactly it. And one thing we haven't touched on yet tonight is shifting. And as you probably have noticed and can hear in the RPMs, we have drivers that are definitely shifting here. And you can shift a lot, you can shift not at all. And you can turn decent lap times here doing both, but both you'll pay the tax in fuel if you shift a lot. I'm a shift a lot kind of guy. I was talking to Jeff earlier, and we shift about the same time, just perhaps in different places. But again, fuel mileage, 19 laps is your fuel window here. As Jeff looks to go the inside back, looking to take Grant back in turn 3 here.
See if you can get the throttle here through the center. Usually on that inside line, unless you can get the car pointed, you're going to kind of diamond and slide up through the center of the corner. Looks like Jeff did a good job, kept the momentum, but Grant got just a little more there, exiting out of turn 3, and he'll lead them back to the start-finish line once again. We're starting to, it was about only 6 cars up in this lead pack back to Randy Wall. We're now about to add in as well the 38 of Rodney Sullins and the 62 of Ron Lucet for an 8-car pack here at the front of the field. Now, you talked about, this particular racetrack in terms of tire heat and everything. There's been actually, hold that thought. I believe we got a caution.
Out. Yep, caution is out, sir.
Dennis McCarthy coming to pit road there in the 024. Not sure if maybe he was the reason the yellow came out. We had a couple of others further back here, but it looks like they're all not too far behind the lead pack, so I think it would be McCarthy bringing out this first yellow flag. Yeah, there's the skid marks.
Yep.
Right there. Was that off of turn 3? It looks the entrance of turn 3.
Looks like the typical thing in the typical spot I think you're going to find there.
Jump back, see the 024. It's like all by his lonesome here, under braking. Back end starts to step out, and up into the wall he goes.
If you have raced at Pocono, you have sympathized with Dennis McCarthy. When you get into turn three and you want to get in a little deeper because you feel pressure from behind or you want to try to get a run up top and you let go of that brake and that suspension unloads, you've got to be ready to catch it because if it comes up too abruptly and it's all have happened to all of us, and once she's gone, she's gone.
Maybe one of the few tracks where I've approached a corner prepared to counter steer, just knowing that if I end up turning that wheel a little too much to the left, and as you mentioned, carry a little bit too much speed, that thing's going to snap around. You got to kind of have to be prepared to swing that thing back to the right just in case to catch it.
There are a few happier things in sim racing than taking a really loose setup and taking this track with that. When you're turning right coming out of the tunnel turn, that's one of my just slamming the throttle to the ground, nailing the tunnel turn, and be turning right on the outside of it to keep it straight. It's just fun to me.
First caution of the evening. Couple of positives there. 6 laps under the green flag. Did a really good job of racing hard all the way through the field, but racing clean. The other good thing there, too, single car incident. We had about 5 cars behind McCarthy at the time he spun out that could have easily been swept up into it, but all were able to make their way by. So just a single car incident bringing out this first yellow flag. But what does this do now in terms of fuel strategy? Because, of course, these drivers want to get to the start-finish line first at lap 70, but we're also talking about those stage points that are getting paid out at lap 35. Where's the put that in the window for there?
Well, I got to get the calculator out, but again, 19 laps shifting. 19 laps will get you there shifting for sure. Can you do 20 laps on a fuel? I can't, but somebody can. I can guarantee you somebody can, but you'll be sacrificing some lap time along the way to do it. So we're talking lap 35 is our halfway point tonight. So we're getting close, but we're not there yet.
Drivers hit pit road here. Grant Wesley qualified in 5th, so he's got that number 5 pit stall. Give him a little bit better of a launch here for the exit of pit lane 2. We'll see if his team can hold serve. It's like Brian Schilling may have gambled here as he's actually going to win the battle off at pit road. Was that a fuel only? Was that a 2 tires for the 4 car?
Could have been just fuel. I mean, you could do it here, but more than likely 2 tires. We'll have to go back and have a quick look.
Yeah, let's do that. As he leapfrogged a ton of drivers there. And it looks like, yep, right sides only. Was 15th
Indeed.
before the pit stops. Leapfrogged 14 positions with this strategy call.
Oh, Brian knows what I was talking before. It is. It's a big, long, wide track. But track position really does matter here. We saw some passing, but passing is hard. You've got to generate those runs, as we saw the guys trying to get the runs off of 3. So I can't blame Brian. He comes in sometimes late and is perennially stopping in the rear. That's why we see the most positions gained. So he's willing to take the deficit here, and hopefully it'll pay off in the long run.
So he comes off pit road, the leader. But it looks like the 26 of Billy Elliser may have actually stayed out. Now, Elliser did not lead a lap. The reason for that is Grant Wesley led a lap on pit road, crossed the start-finish line before Elliser was able to. So at this point in time, the 26 is out in front, but he is not getting the benefit of the bonus point for being the race leader. We'll see if he comes to pit road here, if he would cross the start-finish line. He qualified in 20th place. I'm not sure where the pit stalls are in relation to positioning.
Yep, he's peeling off because I believe we should see the lights go out this time by.
Let's check and see. It looks like the leaders are actually bypassing him right now, so Elliser will stay out. He'll have the extra lap of fuel here on the upcoming restart, but he will not get credit for the lap led. Brian Schilling right there just got the lap led, as he'll be the one to bring us back to the start-finish line for the restart. He'll have Jeff Supta, who will line up, I'm presuming, it to his outside. I believe Brian will take the inside line here, and there'll be Grant Wesley, Tim Novsker, and Nick Gunther, the top 5. You alluded to the fact that you got the notification from Josh. He wasn't going to be here tonight. Of course, we've already documented it as well. 3-time winner on the season, Jeremy Jeffries, not in the field, not feeling well. So send our best wishes to him. But with Jeremy not in the field here tonight, we're continuing on a bit of a streak here where every other race, it's been Jeremy that's gone to victory lane, and the other races after that have been different drivers going to victory lane. Jeremy won the season opener. Jeff went to victory lane in race 2. Then it was back to Jeremy in victory circle. Gunther went to victory for the first time in his career, and last week at Michigan it was Jeremy. So we're continuing a streak here where we're going to have a different driver go to victory lane, but maybe a repeat winner here in either the 11 or the 055.
And you're going to predict Jeremy Jeffries to win at Atlanta next week.
You're darn right. I'm betting the house on that one car next week.
I'll tell you what. Well, the 1-1 car is going to restart second here, but I did neglect to mention that he is the pole winner the last 2 times we got out here, and he got the pole again tonight. We got stats from 3 previous Pocono races to pull from here. And I like on what you said, that was some great heads-up green flag racing. Hopefully these guys will get it sorted out and we'll hit it again this time by. But it's tough. But once you get it going, you saw great give and go, attempts to pass, checking up, and what we saw in turn 3, unfortunately, with Dennis McCarthy, it's very common at Pocono.
Dennis has retired from the race. He'll finish in 28th, and we've got some further information. We saw Ulysses Sandoval from the outside of the front row go all the way up almost to the wall in turn 1. Lost 4th gear on that 096, so he's going to have a tough road to toe here the rest of the night with no high gear available. Green flag back in the air. You see the pace car stayed out an extra lap. He wants to lead, I guess. But we're back green flag racing as everyone splits that Toyota pace car back there. Schilling going to lead us into turn 1.
That's one of the products of the new XC we use, but he'll be going down this time by, and he's invisible, so we don't have to worry about that. As Grant looks like he might want to try to get out right away. Meanwhile, Nick Gunther is under threat from Jeff Supta, but they settle it. Nick Gunther's going to shake out in 3rd as they head down the Long Pond Straight.
What we saw right out of the gate, Grant Wesley was on go, got around Gunther for 2nd, made quick work of Supta to get to the race lead. How long does he wait to get around the 4 of Brian Schilling, as he's got 4 fresh Goodyears to Brian's 2. Behind them, side-by-side battle for the 5th spot. That's Jim Glaude looking to the inside of Rodney Sullins. Rodney going to get the benefit of the draft from behind there of Tim Nofsker, going to edge out ahead, but here comes Jim diving it into 3. Nice corner by the 72 as he'll complete the pass out of turn 3 and down the front stretch.
Heads up racing all the way around there, and Randy Waugh saw that going on, got himself in position to take the low road, and he picked up 1 position, I believe, coming out of turn 3 on Rodney Sullins.
It's like Grant may have actually gotten to the outside of Brian Schilling there out of turn 3, kind of pinned him down for turn 1's entry. Gunther follows around, so Schilling goes from 1st to 3rd in the matter of half a corner.
And Jim Glad looks like he made a good recovery coming off, may have made a little bit of contact with the wall on the exit there, but didn't hurt him too much on speed. He caught it pretty well, and they're single file going through the tunnel now. And it looks like Randy Waugh to challenge Rodney, but Rodney's going to hold him off.
There's the pace car still there, trying to make his way back to pit road. Brett's a little lost.
Yeah, that's a little unnerving too when you see, you're just like, I'm not supposed to hit things, but this case
you
can.
We got a spinner back here. It's Ron Hagelin, Greg Palmer up in turn 3.
Looks like everybody else is going to get by, and the pace car is going to head around and try to pick up the field again.
Ron Hagelin in the 111. Coming into this race, 9th in overall points. Greg Palmer in the 22. He's 30th in standings. Trying to get his season going. I believe he's been on a limited time schedule. He has not made all the starts so far this season. And we'll have to see. They were approaching where the pace car was, and sometimes just having that car there could be a visual throw off, but it was over in turn 3 as well, which we know is going to be the major trouble spot for drivers. It's where driver battles track, driver battles car, rather than drivers battles driver, so we may have had another similar situation like we had with McCarthy with the first yellow. We'll take a look and see.
Yeah, literally, it's literally the worst spot for that pace car to be, but it looks like these guys were nose to tail on the short chute way before they came upon the pace car.
Different lifting points here in preparation for 3, and looks like Ron may have lifted a little sooner than Greg expected. Got him in the right rear quarter panel and spins him around. Doesn't look like very much damage for either driver. Kind of a tank slap there to the passenger side for the 111. Should be able to continue.
With moderate damage, should be okay. You don't want to get too much damage here because it will hurt you on these long straightaways.
But Ronald Doucet looking in the rearview mirror. That Coca-Cola Chevrolet got very, very close. And again, very fortunate that we didn't have any other drivers involved here.
Great job by the drivers themselves involved to get up to the wall and hold it there till the field is safely gone by.
We don't usually use this camera, but let's look from the back of the 62. Watch this.
It's going to hurt.
This is Sandoval, Frank Rivard making their way by. They were just behind the incident. So caution now for the second time here tonight. Both are cautions. We've not had the need for a lucky dog. All drivers have been at the on the lead lap at the time, so no free pass needed here, which is kind of a good thing as well because we only need pit road open once before we get ready to rack them up and go green again.
That is true. They do have the option to short it. Right now they're waiting on Mr. Slow Pace Car, but he's finally got the field.
And do we come to pit road here? Some say yes,
Some
say
takers.
no.
Oh, some fakers and some takers.
All right, there's the committers from Dave Melson on back, but it looks like the top 8 all decided to stay out, and about half of them trying to fake the rest onto pit lane. Interesting call for the 4 to stay out. Opportunity here to come down, get some tires, be on level playing field with everybody else. I mean, looks like just kind of eyeballing it. With those that didn't pit, he would end up, if he came off pit road first, he'd be back around 14th, 15th place.
Yeah, not probably acceptable to me because this is not going to, even if you top off here, this is still not going to get you to halfway. So you're going to have to come in again before that halfway. And unless I saw the people in front of me peeling off, in the front of the field, it's so tough to give up that track position.
So something I noticed there, just around where that incident was the 096 of Ulysses Sandoval was still up in the pack. He appeared to still be up to speed in battling inside of just the latter half of the top 15 with no fourth gear. Is third gear long enough that you're able to still stay up to speed here, or is there some point where he's going to be topping out on that third gear where it may end up wearing on the engine? Eventually that engine gives up the ghost.
Yeah, hopefully he didn't get one of those we won't say it motors. But third gear, you can try to run it, but at the end of the front stretch, you're going to undoubtedly be on the chip, and that's just going to build oil and water temp, and the inevitable may happen. But he can try to hang in as long as it's not a lost cause completely. To put it to that way, you can survive. You might be hitting the top of the chip coming to the tunnel turn is too, but if a long green flag run, 19 laps doing that, I don't know.
I won't say the motors either, but I don't remember him ever driving a Toyota. So can we put a Chevrolet engine in a Toyota?
Well, anything's possible here, but chances
They're universal,
are
huh?
used a different vendor, yes. I don't want to jinx the runner that might be racing. There might be presently third, but yeah, because we don't want his motor to expire.
Yeah, not naming names, but a guy that happens to be at the very tail end of the podium. Yeah, no hints. Anyway, getting ready here, hopefully for the 1 to green signal. Had a driver come back down pit road back there in Greg Palmer. But it looks like everybody, for the most part, have made their pit stop if they were going to make one under this caution period, and we'll get racked up and get ready to go back green. Another streak that's going to end up getting snapped here tonight. We talked about Jeremy Jeffries and Josh Metallic with 5 straight finishes inside of the top 5. We've had 3 straight victories in the Challenger Series by Kelly Causey. Kelly is not in the field here tonight. And so Colin Flick, Cy Jones, Bob Dixon, Bobby Farrell, your top 4 in the point standings. Looking at some of those drivers, also including Glenn Harris, Dave Robbins, trying to either get back into victory circle here with a Challenger win or get their first Challenger win of season 65.
Sure do. There's plenty of opportunities to be available and everywhere tonight. Looking through some of the rest of the field, I tell you, they've been doing some great heads-up driving here. And just with the cautions, sometimes cautions tend to breed cautions. But if these guys can get a couple laps in, they can get sorted out really well, like they did the first time.
Looks like we'll get one more lap of pacing here before we get the lights out on the pace car. Grant Wesley has led the most laps so far here tonight, as he's been out in front for 6 circuits. Brian Schilling has led 3. Jeff Supta has led 4, and that's been it so far in the first 13 completed laps.
Well, since we got a second, as we mentioned, Jeff is prominent here as a pole sitter. He's won the two last consecutive poles at this track, season 62 and season 59, and yours truly won the season 56 one before that. We've had three different winners the last three times here. Jeremy Jeffries, yours truly, and Zach Rogers took it home in season 62. I see some fast laps, consistencies, names we're familiar with: Grant Wesley, Josh Metallic, Rodney Sullins, Brian Schilling, Jeremy Jeffries, Brian Schilling, Jeff Supta, Andrew Miller, who's not in the field tonight.
Hometown driver at Pocono for Andrew.
Yeah, he should be here.
I believe he's a couple hours away from this racetrack, if I'm not mistaken. He's not too far outside of... I think he's not too far outside of Pittsburgh. I know he's about 45 minutes away from Hershey.
Used to take the family over to Pocono. We would camp in the infield Thursday, family camping. We get there right on the fence between the tunnel turn and turn 3 on the short chute. Great viewing spot, and spent quite a few hot June and July afternoons at Pocono Raceway myself.
Got the opportunity to go to Pocono in 2023. The guy's actually outside the front row, Nick Gunther. Myself and him went there. We got lucky because the ARCA race actually got rained out the day prior, so we got the trifecta that day with ARCA trucks and Xfinity, and we also got the paddock pass, got to go inside the infield. It's a great facility.
Well, I was probably there a little bit earlier than you. The first race I went to, Darrell Waltrip won.
Okay.
And then I believe I was there, yep, right after. We were unfortunately there after Alan Kawicki had passed away.
Oh, right, yep.
But we saw Rusty Wallace and we saw Dale Sr. win there.
Oh, nice. All right, we got the lights out.
Turn 3. Are we heading to turn 3? We indeed are.
So it'll be Grant Wesley, Nick
Going
Gunther
through the
front
tunnel.
row, Brian Schilling, Jim Glaude, who right now has the fastest lap of the race at a 55.172 in row 2. Pole sitter Jeff Supta, Ronnie Sullins there in row 3 with Randy Waugh, Tim Nofsker, Colin Flick, and Bobby Farrell. That's going to be your top 10 as we get ready to go back green. 27 of our original 28 running on the lead lap. Lap 15 complete, 20 to go in the stage.
You got it right. I was going to say exactly 20 to go, and 19 is the fuel number, and we had a pace lap, so if somebody can go 20 from here, provided we could keep that green flag out, that would be an interesting feat. But
Grant's going to clear up for the top position. Gunther will tuck in line in second. Another introduction to that 72 to the outside wall off of turn 1.
Big contact off turn 1 between the 143 of Bob Dixon and the 038 of Dave Melson, but they got it sorted out nicely going down into the tunnel turn.
Little double wide there. That's around 7th where Tim Nofsker picks up the spot on Randy Waugh. Now Bobby Farrell looks to take advantage. They're going to be stacked up double wide going into 3. Colin Flick in that conversation. Ulysses Sandoval with no 4th gear.
He's hanging in. Now here we'll watch Ulysses going up the long front stretch, and on the inside even, he's gaining on the 92. He's got drafting help behind with Colin Flick, but right about now he should be running out of some horses. Let's see how this works out. Yep, he had to duck back in because he's just at the top of some thing, and Bobby started to pull away from him at the very end of the straightaway, and that'll be the same thing. Now he'll probably be able to hang pretty good here on the long pond straight.
I saw some flames coming out of the tailpipes there of Sandoval entering into turn 1. I don't know if that was him letting off the throttle in preparation for the entry to the corner, or if that was indeed the 3rd gear topping out with the higher RPMs. Is battle going to be here. Gunther might have gotten a little wide, maybe got the wall there out of turn 2. Jim Glaude found momentum to swing around for the 2nd spot.
Quick to capitalize. Tough spot here for
Spin.
Jim to get to the inside. Up, and I see a spin going. The caution is out.
John Godfrey, they're stacked up here. Bob Dixon, Andre Charest, Billy Elliser in that, along with Greg Palmer. Frank Rivard going to spin around as well in the 35. Godfrey was 15th last time by. Go back, take a look, see what happened. Third caution of the evening. Turn 3 has been where the gremlins lie. And this time it gets the 7-Eleven of Godfrey, who had that podium finish back at the Super Speedway at Coca-Cola. Looks like he got a little assistance.
He did indeed. Looks like he got some help from the 143 car again at different braking points here, and rear contact going into turn 3 is going to pretty much end up like that. And then we've got some after activity here. Billy Ellisor came in, thought he was clear, and ooh, Dave Robbins just squeaked on through there.
So too did Ron Lucet. Mark Paglia just comes to a dead stop and waits for it all to sort itself out. It's so tough there for turn 3, right? Because everybody has a different braking zone. Some can drive it in a little bit deeper, make it stick. Other drivers a little tentative, and so they want to lift out of the throttle sooner to make sure they have their car underneath them. Obviously, there for the 143, he's not trying to run the 7-Eleven over, but I've seen other drivers sometimes adapt a strategy, and maybe it's not a comfort for them, it's not comfortable for them, but they'll kind of, in a sense, prepare themselves for the next corner running an entirely different line, just in case that car up ahead of them lifts early, then they can at least get to the inside without making contact, or the outside, depending on what the case may be.
It was a point of emphasis in the driver's meeting tonight, talking about, expect the checkup in front of you, be prepared for it. And looked like Dave Robbins didn't get through as clear as I thought he did.
Not
A little
quite.
bit of contact with himself and Andre Charest.
And I thought Ronald Lucet got through without any contact, but I think he got a little bit of Billy Ellisor too. So add those two drivers to the involved list. Bobby Farrell going to stay out, and he actually will lead a lap here in that Adam Petty tribute machine.
Looks like John Godfrey has taken his car to the garage as our leaders are on pit road. Race off is exciting, and looks like Grant Wesley, Nick Gunther, and Glenn Harris
Glenn
going to come out third.
Krispy Kreme Chevrolet gaining some track position. One would have to assume that was a two-tire stop for him.
Good to see Glenn out there. Class guy, clean, classy driver. Happy to have him here.
Maybe the guy I saw the most of in terms of battling when I raced here in the Barebones Racing Series. He and I always seemed to run around the same positions wherever we went.
I got asked a lot of times when we put this series together, way back in season 33, yes, we have fast drivers here. Are they the fastest? We don't care. But what we do know is with this field that we have, wherever you're racing, you don't have to be fast.
No.
Just be good and clean. But wherever you're racing, there will be people in this field that will be right there racing with you. That was the joy of it. Is whatever level you race, whether you're for 13th this week or 3rd next week, there's somebody there that's going to be racing with you, and that's what I find one of the nicest things.
And you consider this too, and I've lauded over this being such a great idea, and it's done in every single series. You've got the bracket challenge over on Thursday nights. You've got the Challenger series on Monday and Thursday nights. It gives everybody something to race for as well. It's not just you're showing up to run 10th through 15th every week. No, a 10th or 15th place finish can garner you points to be able to get a Challenger championship at the end of the season.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, now this is kind of throwing the strategy. We know our leaders were on pit road there, I guess lap 18, and doing the math from there, they can make it to the halfway point from here.
Interesting. The 62 of Ron Lucet, the 35 of Frank Rivard going to stay out. Now, to my knowledge, they have not come to pit road here under this caution period. They did pit under the last yellow, though. Could they have saved enough fuel under the pacing laps from the previous caution and this current one to be able to get to that lap 35 mark?
I believe so. I think they'll be just good, and that's probably exactly what they were thinking. Track position at this point ruling over the extra tires, but I think there's going to be a feeding frenzy here on them once we get going green here.
And think about these two drivers as well and where they're positioned. You got Ronald Lucet, he is just above the cut line, currently 8th in overall standings. I believe he is 23 points to the good. For Frank Rivard, he's below the cut line, a total of 15 points. And that cut line driver, you mentioned him, John Godfrey, out of the race. So that cut line will move at the conclusion of this race with the 7-Eleven finishing in 27th place.
Last week's third place finisher, Rodney Sullins, he had a triumph where it could have been tragedy, and he
Oh,
brought
yeah.
his machine home third last week, if you remember. He stands to gain pretty good here because he's the next position back after Bob LaChance. And
It's like also Brian Rawson in that sleek-looking Valvoline Chevrolet has gone to the garage area. He'll get credited for 26th position here tonight. So we'll leave us with 25 drivers still running, all on the lead lap. Back to that Cheerios throwback of Billy Elliser. With Chevrolets getting ready to put us back onto the green. We'll be at 50 to go, but more importantly, at least at this point in time, 15 laps to go in the stage.
well, we've had a bit of a pattern here. Caution on lap 6, caution on lap 12. By then it should have been 18, but we beat it by 117. So we're going to hope to see what we get going here.
Let's say the control car, and that Spider-Man Chevrolet. Oh, whoa! Major issue there with the gearing. You could hear him sputtering. That's going to stack them all up on that inside line.
And they are spinning, and the caution is out.
You could hear the
That was
rev. I don't know if
interesting,
the 62 started in the wrong gear or if when he upshifted he didn't have maybe second gear or third gear.
That's what it more looked like, because he definitely took off, and then it let go.
Dave Robbins, I believe I saw Jeff Supta involved in that stack up. Glenn Harris, who played strategy to gain track position, just lost it all there. Dave Melson as well in the 038, the Wendy Chevrolet.
You have to take a pretty close look here to see.
We'll do some
It could be a
onboards
situation
too.
of anticipating the green flag and then it didn't come out.
We'll look first at the stack up here. Glenn was on the inside of row 3. Jeff was on the inside of row 4. You see, Grant had to check up for the 62 in front of him, and then Glenn was trying to figure out what to do, and as he lifted for the 88, the 11 was into the back of him, and
looks like a possible blown second gear on the 62.
And it's so tough, right, to get that communication back through the rest of the field. I mean, second place, well, I should say second on the inside line, Grant Wesley, he can see what's going on, but fourth, fifth, sixth car in line, they have no idea what's happening. Take a listen here to the 62. We'll go inside the cockpit as well, but listen, you're going to hear the revving. Yep, right there at the upshift to second.
Yep, telltale sign.
And the only reason that he kept going there was he got that shot from behind by Grant Wesley. That helped get him up high enough miles per hour to be able to then upshift to third gear.
They almost survived it.
This is going inside the cockpit of the Spider-Man Chevrolet. Keep an eye on that center dial where it says RPM. You're going to see it flashing red here in just a moment where it tops out. Right there.
A lot of shifting here at Pocono. Probably will not be the first gear failure we see. I tell you, Jeff Supta, who was our pole sitter and presently is sitting fourth in points, standing to gain tonight, had some trouble. He was stuck in that checkup, and then he had some post contact that looks like it may have given him some damage.
And I know we've talked about Jeremy Jeffries in the past, how a number of races, despite the fact he's had 3 trips to victory lane, he has missed out on being up towards the front at the halfway point and cashing in on stage points. Jeff Supta's had a couple of races like that as well, and now, with us entering close towards 10 laps to go here to the halfway point, is there enough time, do you think, for Jeff Supta to be able to play any kind of strategy or have a strong enough car to get up here and be able to at least get into the top 10, get a few stage points here by the time we get to the conclusion of lap 35?
He is on pit road. He's gotten some damage fixed, it looks like, and so he's going to have a tough road to hoe. He's going to come out somewhere around 24th, 23rd.
So 2 drivers that we know of so far with gear issues. We knew right off the start, Ulysses Sandoval, no 4th gear. He's still soldiering on in 7th, and Ron Lucet elects to still stay out here, keep the 2nd position, keep that track position, but how important on these upcoming restarts, especially near the end of the race, how important is it going to be not having that 2nd gear? How much track position can you maintain? How much momentum can you maintain with a quick upshift from 1st to 3rd? Or are you considering maybe doing all restarts in 3rd gear? What are your options here if you're the 62?
Oh, it's definitely you can't go straight in 3rd. It's got to be 1st to 3rd and hoping. And I can't off the top of my head think of what gears in 2nd here because this isn't the original setup we used. Um, it's not going to be good on the restarts. The line behind him is going to have to be aware because 2nd gear is critical because it's. But he'll survive once they get up to speed.
Of course, as well, we have to remind everybody that the halfway point of this race, top 10 gets stage points, but a caution does not come out for the stage. We race right through it. So these drivers now, while they are making current preparations for the completion of lap 35, I guarantee you there are other drivers as well that they're making preparations for the next round of pit stops, whether they be under green or whether they be under caution, in preparation for setting up for the end of this race. So kind of have to weigh the options. Which do you want more? Do you want those stage points, which we've seen pay dividends even in terms of determining who an eventual champion of the season is going to be? But we've also seen a number of drivers be able to have some pretty dominating seasons. Case in point, Jeremy Jeffries, 5 races completed the season and 3 trips to Victory Circle, most recently last week at Michigan.
Indeed, and we saw quite a few caution flags in Michigan, and we're off to not a great start here tonight, but sometimes these things tend to run like this. Last week we had green flag pit stops and everything in Michigan and just had run into a gaggle of cautions breeding cautions. Here we've had a rash of cautions in the first third of the race, and if they get this thing going green, we could potentially go green all the way.
So we should get the 1 green signal next time by. I want to pick your brain on I don't know, it's been a running debate with drivers in regards to this racetrack. A lot of people say that Pocono is 3 corners, but there's another set of people that say that the turns are wide enough and it's slightly different from the entry to the corner to the center and then the center off, that they consider Pocono a 6-turn racetrack. What do you think about that?
Oh boy, be a tough call from here. And just getting a message here. Bear with me 1 second.
Okay. Should begin the 1 to green this time by, indicating us going green with 10 laps to go in the stage. Frank Rivard, who's just below the cut line. Ron Lucet, who's just above the cut line, that being 12th in the standings, going to be the front row. Nick Gunther, former winner this season, got his first career win back at Nashville Super Speedway. Going to make up the second row with Grant Wesley, who has led the most laps so far. He's the only driver so far that has led double-digit laps, 10 circuits out in front. Jim Glaude is going to line up in 5th. Rodney Sullivan 6th. Then Ulysses Sandoval, Randy Waugh, Brian Schilling, and Denny Carroll are going to be the top 10. I believe the highest running driver of the Challenger drivers, if I'm not mistaken, would be Bob LaChance, who is currently in the 11th position.
And I concur with that, sir. Curious to see what happens when the green flag comes out here now.
Especially with that 62 still up at the front.
The car that's appreciating all these cautions, I think, is Ulysses in the 096. Has given his motor nice and cool.
Indeed. And he's done a good job. He's kept it up in the top 15, now up inside of the top 10. I mean, you go back to last week at Michigan, Rodney Sullivan's looked like he was destined to finish that race outside of the top 20, was involved in, I think it was 3 of the first cautions of the night. And somehow, some way, at the end of the evening, he brought it home inside of the top 5. So, you stick it out despite the adversity, you might be able to reap the rewards. That 096 might be able to do just that.
Sure thing. Rodney, as we speak of him, he's sitting in 6th position right now. Looks like Denny Carroll has made his way into the top 10. I see him sitting in 10th position right now.
Yeah, Denny had some really good showing of speed in practice. Qualified 17th, so he's had to make his way up through the field during the course of this race. Saw Randy Waugh up there battling in the latter half of the top 5 beginning stages of this race. He's still up here in the 8th position. Good run for that 21 machine after qualifying up inside of the top 10. As here we go, green flag is out, and you see the 62 of Ron Lucet pulling up to that third line right against the wall, giving everyone a lane to get by him as he gets ready to upshift to third gear.
Just good heads-up racing there because these tires are cold, so heads up on this first lap. 2 by 2 through turn 1, almost 3 wide, about around 10th, 12th position, but they've got it sorted out back to 2.
Grant trying to cross the 35 over on the exit of turn 1, gets to the inside, heading into the tunnel turn. He's got the fresher tires, so he should have more grip. He'll clear before they even get to the entry of the corner, and now Frank Rivard looks in his rearview mirror. More hungry drivers wanting to get by there with Gunther, Sullins, Gloud now side by side with Sandoval. That's for 5th place.
Everybody makes it through too. Sandoval and Gloud were contesting that in the tunnel, and they're going to go side by side continuing through turn 3. We'll see if everybody can make it out and around this time. And so far, yes.
Sandoval swings around the outside of Gloud, move him up into the 5th spot. Gunther now shows the nose to the inside of the 35 of Rivard for 2nd place, headed for turn 1. Whoa! Checked up there did Rodney Sullins as he was almost into the back of Frank going into the entry of the corner. And now Sandoval will look to take advantage.
Ulysses is really missing that 4th gear. He is definitely up on the wheel sporty. He's been getting some great runs and been making some good moves. And he's just going to be missing that horsepower at the top end here. Again, at the end of the straightaway, he's probably running out of horses.
So maybe advantage 096 when we get into these corners, but then we get to the straightaway and he gives all that spot back.
And it's definitely not going to be an advantage in the fuel tank. He's going to be at a severe deficit there, provided the motor holds together.
Denny Carroll, Tim Nofsker, a spirited battle that lap from turn 1 all the way to turn 3, as this is for the 9th position. Carroll hangs on for the moment. Bob LaChance looking on, and Jim Gloud going to step out for a brief moment there on Sullins. Now Randy Waugh will jump to the inside of Ulysses Sandoval. This is ongoing for 6th.
Sometimes that's a look. Sometimes it's like you said earlier. Take a stagger just in case so you can go into the turn at your pace and not have an abrupt checkup. Sometimes that's just good heads-up racing. But if you get a nice roll, it could be also setting up a pass. And Randy Waugh's going to look to the inside of Ulysses here in the tunnel.
That 096 looked awfully loose there going to the entry to that corner. I believe Ulysses also got the wall there off of turn 1 that last time by. Brushed it just a bit. As Brian Schilling now jumping up to the outside of the 20 with Randy Waugh, trying to get to that right rear quarter panel off of 3. Woo! Having to saw on that wheel to not hit the outside wall.
That was the way to do it. I believe we saw Grant do that earlier. If you can get that fender in there on the outside coming out of 3, and chances are the draft may be in your favor down that long front stretch. That's, the preferred way.
Brian starting back in the 21st position. Of course, gained a bunch of that track position with a 2-tire strategy, which I believe he's still on those worn left side tires. It's still hanging on here inside of the top 10.
Yep, looks like they're with 6 to go now to halfway. They are trying to get settled out.
And you talked about the importance of track position. Frank Rivard, old tires on that 35, stayed out under the last yellow flag, and whoa, loose right there under braking, but he only at this point had let Grant and Nick by, and now looks like Rodney's going to try and take advantage down the front straightaway. That was a massive slide for Frank Rivard.
Great recovery, though. Great save. I think Ulysses had a moment of pause there watching that as well.
Are we going to be 3 going into 1? No, Jim's going to back out of that. Sullins will clear for the spot. Now Gloud to the inside of Frank for 4th. Boy, both cars pushing up the track. Little contact, little paint exchange there down the straightaway.
Sure was. It is tough to keep the momentum on the inside now. Again, you'll see them all stacked up to the outside. Jim will have the preferred line going in through the tunnel here and going into 3.
Kind of reminds me of the super speedways we run on Thursday nights, Talladega and BSR coming off of 2. We talk about tire heat in that right front tire, getting them tight on that inside line. Kind of similar when they come off the corner on the inside line here off whatever corner it may be at Pocono.
Yeah, we haven't had a long enough green run to really get those tires cooking to the point where we see them pushing up, but looks like we're on our way now. Frank's going to try to take advantage of Ulysses. We'll see if he does it at the end of the straightaway here if Ulysses starts to drop off.
Ulysses was able to get to the outside of Frank Rivard out of turn 3, completes the pass on the straightaway, move him up to 4th place. Jim Glaude now, looks like this actually is Schilling on the attack of Jim. He got to the outside of the 72, and he'll make a pass, move up to P6. Right now, you look back to that bright orange machine of Tim Nofsker. He'd be the last driver currently to get stage points. His next time by will be at 4 to go.
Looks like Jim likes that inside line there. Randy Waugh trying to take advantage and roll through on the outside and gain that position going into 3. Looks like he's going to be successful, but he way up to the wall. And will he get stuck to it? No, he stays off the wall. He'll lose the position, but he will not. He'll live the fight on.
Great job of not going up there. Pocono turn 3 wall specifically. It will suck you in. It will not let you go. As I believe Dave Robbins may have gotten the wall way back there, as he's in a battle with Billy Elliser. Now it's a question of how long do we ride. Looks like our top 5, top 6 have gotten themselves somewhat single-filed out here. A little gap from Wesley back to Gunther, but now how long do you wait to go on the attack?
Looks like Ulysses' motor just gave up.
Oh, boy.
Don't know if we're going to have the caution yet or not, but yep, that is definitely a couple fries short of a Happy Meal.
We are still green at this point in time. Traffic coming in here.
Gets to the inside. Still got a little ways to go, but the green flag is still out as the leaders are heading towards the start-finish line.
He's at 100 miles per hour here, and he's still carrying speed. It looks like he may be able to get back around to pit road without a caution coming out.
Good job, and the caution gods smiled upon us.
Old tires of Frank Rivard charging back here, looking for 3rd place on Rodney Sullins. Brian Schilling right there as well. And one driver currently not in line to get any stage points as he's mired back. Currently in the 18th position would be a former winner on the season, Jeff Supta, 4th in points.
Yep, he's not going to be able to get there under green, that's for sure, as they're coming up on 2 to go to halfway. Side by side in turn 3, Frank Rivard making a move on Brian.
Big dive there by Brian. You saw him trying to gather that rear end up through the center of the corner. Got it pointed, got the throttle mashed, and he'll complete the pass, move the 4 to P4. As Ulysses Sandoval has safely made it to pit road, has gone to the garage area. He will finish 25th here tonight. Tough break there, losing 4th gear right out of the gate after starting this race from the outside of the front row, and Schilling's not done. Now he'll pick up another spot here on Brian Schilling. This is really impressive for having those older left side tires.
He is definitely on the move at this point. Going through the tunnel, everybody's staying behaved. Still got one more time to go around after here.
Proverbial white flag of the stage would be waving this next time by. Grant Wesley looking for a stage victory, 10 valuable stage points, and he's, I believe, won a stage already here this season, but he's still looking to close the deal out as well, trying to get that first trip to victory lane, as he's looking here tonight. 16 points back out of the points lead to be leading the points going into next week at Atlanta, with the top 2 in the standings not in the field this evening.
Drivers who don't make a race are entitled to provisional, which is 2 points less than the last finishing car, but that does not include any stage points. So this will be huge for Grant.
So that would be about a 30th place finish then, I guess, for those that would take the provisional, and easily only 16 points back. Grant, with even just a top 5, top 10 run here tonight, should be able to leapfrog both Metallic and Jeffries to get that points lead, but he wants more than that. He wants the checkered flag, as we're going to have a good battle for second coming back to the green and white checkered. Grant's going to take the stage victory. It's going to be really close for who gets 9, who gets 8. Gunther's going to get second. Schilling's going to get third. We race on, though, with Sullins, Frank Rivard, the top 5, Jim Glaude, Randy Waugh, Denny Carroll, Tim Nofsker, and Bob LaChance going to be your stage points garners here. in the halfway point at Pocono.
Now, Brian and Nick are going to want to get this sorted out fairly quick because this is starting to take on a long green flag run, and there's no benefit right here to duking this out for more than it's worth. And Brian sees that, and he's going to pull right back in line.
So we went back green with 10 laps to go in the stage, so we'd be, I assume, looking towards around lap 45, that target lap when these drivers would have to start diving onto pit road for fuel.
Maybe a little sooner than that. I'm trying to. Do you remember exactly which lap we went green on?
I believe we went back green on the conclusion of lap 25 onto 26.
Okay, so yep, right about lap 44.
Brian Shilly now looking back to the inside here of Nick Gunther. One thing that we talked about last week in Michigan is when we were having those cycle of green flag pit stops, kind of like a super speedway, as Gunther gets a little bit of the wall there off of turn one. Kind of like a super speedway, you want to come down pit road, and you want to leave pit road still in some type of a draft, whether it be with 2 or 3 cars or with 8 to 10 cars. What about here at Pocono? If we end up seeing a driver go with the utilization of the undercut, try and take advantage of fresh tires on an outlap, how important would it be to come down with a group of drivers, have some good straight line speed in terms of draft down these long straightaways?
Critically important. I mean, with CTS physics, the draft is, if you're out there by yourself or even with 2 cars, but definitely by yourself, you are losing tremendously every lap. You have to have partners pitting here. It's crazy to think of, again, long track, wide track, but it almost races short track like, because the track position matters. And the other thing is these long runs go, we talked about it before, I believe at Nashville. When you make a move, you want to complete that move. Now here at Pocono, you want to give yourself, one of these 3 segments. If you make a move in one turn, give it that next straightaway into the next turn. If you haven't completed it, then it doesn't really pay you to keep side by side beyond that. So, try to make your move, get the run, and then complete the pass. If not, fall back in line.
Your top 12 are all in that lead group, about 2.5 seconds separating. But look at I don't want to call them stragglers, but they're definitely a long ways back, anywhere from 9 to some drivers 15 to 16 seconds back. Ron Hagelin, Dave Melson, Supta's back here, Bob Dixon, Colin Flick, Andre Charest.
Pit road is open. We got our Frank Rivard and somebody else heading down pit road already.
That would be, I believe, the 62 of Ron Lucet. Those were a couple of drivers that stayed out under the last couple of cautions.
So that'll give us our gauge, probably about another 5-6 laps till we see the rest of them.
Colin Flick is also in, our Challenger points leader in the 95. But for those drivers back there that we see, obviously this long green flag round is not benefiting them. They are clamoring for a caution to be able to catch back up. A couple of those drivers have been involved in incidents here, but what could have led to them losing out in the lead pack like this? Is it just maybe one driver getting a poor restart? Was it too much battling in the early going when everybody else was single file, so they pulled away?
It sure doesn't take much. It could be any combination of all of those things. I'd be curious to see when, because don't forget when Frank and Ronald are coming off pit road. I think Billy's a little further behind. It won't be very beneficial in the draft. Ronald is also missing second gear. So that'll give them a little deficit because they're going to have to work together, but they also have to get up to speed as quickly as possible.
Great point. You mentioned about this as a racetrack. You can pit and not lose a lap. Saw Colin Flick. He was the 3rd of the drivers to pit there just moments ago, and he's going to come out just maybe about half a straightaway ahead of the race leader, Grant Wesley, Lucet, and Frank Rivard, much farther ahead. So they will, at least at this point, still be scored on the lead lap. And imagine a situation like this where the caution comes out after they made their pit stop. If they stay out again, they'd get that track position back when everybody else is drawn to pit road.
Yep, just like we saw in the real racing where was Ty Gibbs got caught staying out a little too long and the caution came out.
Grant Wesley's led 24, now about to be 25 laps here, and obviously with CTS physics as well. What kind of... Oh, hold the phone! Knopfsker got spun around off the nose of Randy Waugh as we got some drivers on pit road. And the yellow is going to wave.
That'll jumble things up. We just talked about it.
Yes, it will. Now, these drivers, I believe, all made it past the commitment line, so they technically could make pit stops here under a closed pit road without penalty. Denny Carroll, Jim Gloud, and Ron Hagelin.
It's always difficult. Sometimes you feel that you're on pit road, but it tells you you've entered a closed pit, and if you don't do a drive-through, you'll end up getting a black flag.
We'll have to see what happened here. This was on the front straightaway. Turn 3's been our trouble spot here today, but the front stretch laying claim to our 5th caution of the night. And Tim Knopfsker was battling, I believe, at the time for the 5th position.
Yeah, it looked like maybe he thought he was going to pull in front of the line and draft with the 21 of Randy Waugh, but it just wasn't clear there.
Randy Waugh looking low. You can see right there the bumper's hook. Knopfsker pays the price into the inside wall. Now, as I look back here, I can't, obviously from this camera angle, we can't see the flagman, we can't see the front end of the caution lights, but I did notice that the 088 was already spun around, and the 111 of Hagelin it didn't appear yet reached the commitment line, so I don't know if he ended up pitting under a closed pit road or not.
It'll be close enough to the game to decide. We shall see. Be able to tell based upon where he lines back up, I imagine.
Now, there was the caution flag out. Single car incident here on the front straightaway. That was with the front end of the race car here as well. We talked about the aerodynamic factor, not wanting to get aero damage at a track with the long straightaways like Pocono. How badly do you think with moderate damage that's going to affect the straight line speed on the 088?
Well, similar we see at the super speedway tracks that if he's protected in the draft, especially with front end damage, he'd probably be up to full speed or darn close to it. But if he's got to lead the draft or pull out to make a pass at the end of one of these long straightaways, I imagine it's going to show itself there, even on moderate.
So, if I'm not mistaken, I believe our leader when we go back green is going to be Jim Glaude, because I believe that he came off pit road ahead of Denny Carroll. They both got out ahead of Frank Rivard and Ron Lucet, who had previously pitted. And I would assume they're going to stay out because they were just on pit road when that caution flew. So, the timing of the caution going to benefit Jim Glaude, Denny Carroll. They're now going to more than likely start on the front row, and we've seen what drivers have been able to do when they're given the track position. We saw Frank Rivard and Brian Schilling play some strategy, and they were able to keep themselves up inside of the top 5, get some valuable stage points. We'll have to see after all is said and done when we get the checkered flag if maybe we'll revisit back the timing of this caution and the decision to pit when they did in the finishing results for the 72 and the 41 of Glaude and Carroll.
We all know we live and die by some of these pit decisions, and sometimes it works in your favor, and sometimes you're like, why did I do that? Because it just didn't work out, and you can't predict cautions, but in this case, this is really going to shake it up. It's going to be interesting to see how we get going here, and I'm just still back reviewing that previous incident on the pit road. Looks like Ronald, it looks like he did get on before the yellow flag came out, just before.
So he's going to restart in 3rd position. Bob Dixon in the 143 must have made a pit stop that I missed. Looks like he's going to line up in 4th place. Those drivers are going to stay out. Looks like Knopfsker will be in pit road this time by. And turn the lead over to the 72. Looks like Nick Gunther won the battle off of pit road of those that came down. So he'll restart ahead of Grant Wesley, Rodney Sullins, Randy Waugh, Bob LaChance, and Brian Schilling. Guarantee you there were a lot of drivers that loved seeing that caution, though. Supta's now caught up with the group. Dave Melson, Andre Charest, Billy Elliser, Mark Pagliasai Jones. A lot of drivers breathed a huge sigh of relief when they saw that caution come out, because if they didn't have the yellow, more than likely I don't even see a strategy they could have done to gain that track position that they lost back.
Nope, and there's not a whole lot of strategy to be played here. It's one stop from here. You could try to take 2 tires. That's assuming the green comes in. I just see Ron Hagelin going in, so he must have got that notice from pit road. He'll be restarting towards the rear.
So we'll get the restart. We still have the lights on, so we'll probably get them out this next time by. It looks like Bob Dixon also falling to the back. Might have had the same situation as Ron Hagelin. But we'll actually, it looks like the lights have now gone out, so we will actually go back green here at the conclusion of lap 44 onto 45. which will put us at a total of 26 laps to go. With the window being 20 laps and the racetrack being as it is, as we saw there with the ability to stay on the lead lap, are we of the mindset here, if you're any of these race leaders, that we're going to run it out the 20 laps, or do we have an option where we can maybe split this final run in half?
You could, but you need more than one partner to do it. You know, whoever plays that card needs friends to do it, because when you come out, you've got to be together, and you've got to have a draft. Otherwise, you're just going to get eaten up by the pack, and we're definitely out of the range of making it all the way here. Couple cautions in there now if you stay out, because if you feel like you've got lemons for this race, you're going to try to do whatever you can to make lemonades out of it. Whether that's, hey, I'm going to try to play the fuel mileage game. I know I can't, get the track position, so I'm just going to try to milk this as long as I can, hope for the cautions, and I'll just keep staying out. But that's a tough strategy to do, because when they restart, you stay out, you're going to be at such a severe deficit. But we get another caution in here, it's going to get real close, because like I said, 19 for sure. Shifting at all, you can do 19 laps. 20 is tough.
Just trying to do the quick calculations in my head. So if you ran it dry, you'd be more than likely coming to pit road with around maybe 6 laps to go. That is borderline taking on a half can. I think you'd have to be safe, and you'd have to take a can of fuel on. If you come to pit road splitting this in half, you'd be coming to pit road with about 13 to go, which puts you in about a can and a half category. So I guess it all depends on how much time you want to spend on pit road putting fuel in the race car.
Yep, and your pit partners and stuff like that. But here we go, green again. Jim Glaude is going to take us back to green, and we'll see what happens with this field all shaken up after this different strategies have played out.
First laps led here tonight for Jim Glaude off of the timing of that caution in the pit strategy. Denny Carroll on the outside there of the front row, going to swing it wide into turn 1, opens up the door maybe for 3 wide. He'll tuck right in front of Grant Wesley as Gunther will complete the pass, and a trio of cars will all pound that wall off of turn 1.
You don't have to tell these guys it's getting close time to open the pay window, but it's not time yet, and there's a lot of jockeying for position going around, because guys are trying to gain some track position now because they see the laps are ticking down.
Rodney Sullins tried picking up a spot there on Randy Waugh. Randy will swing around the outside for that 5th position. We'll single file out here now in preparation for the low bank turn 3. Loose! Rodney Sullins saves it, but Brian Schilling does not. And Cy Jones is going to get spun as well.
Yep, looks like there was another gaggle coming through at the end, and they made it through except for Cyber, but Brian has got it righted and on his way again, but I believe he backed it into the wall there, or got the side of it.
Brian was in 6th at the time. Rodney Sullins in 5th place almost went around as well. He was able to gather it back up as turn 3 claims yet another victim. That brings out the 6th caution of the evening. We'll go back and take a look at what happened. And I feel like this is a combination of 2 things. I feel like the 4 got loose under braking, but I feel like he also was reacting to seeing the 38 of Rodney Sullins get loose in front of him as well. So it's a matter of, do I continue on the brakes? Do I throttle up? What do I do in this situation?
I don't think I could have described that any better than you did. That's exactly what happened. It's the first time, we're trying to get through turn 3 here. We know it's treacherous. It's going to be a little loose. The tires are cold. Just that twitch out of Rodney changes everything that Brian's thinking, and he doesn't know whether Rodney's saving it, and just that it's just enough time to unload the suspension. Not much Brian could do there.
Watch it again. Watch that red 38. So, yeah, Rodney has to get on the brakes to avoid getting in the back of Randy Waugh. That gets him loose, and then the 4 gets loose as well. And you see drivers dive to the inside to avoid. Cy with a harmless spin across the nose of Billy Elliser. Could have been a lot worse there. And another thing that I really like there that Brian Schilling did, we'll go back and look at it again, the instinction to, as soon as he gets his car gathered up, he turns it to the right to make sure that he's not coming down into traffic, doesn't run into the problem of maybe getting plowed from behind and getting more damage. You'll see right here as he gathers it back up, watch right here, this little turn to the right to bring it up to the outside wall, make sure that there's a path for everybody else to get by.
That right there probably saved his ability to keep racing tonight.
Absolutely.
That's a heads-up, head pro racer. And I tell you, I'm watching Rodney here, and my word, He twitches to the left, and then I mean that thing was out from under him way before. I mean it switched both directions. He did a heck of a job saving that. Really did.
Ron Hagelin with a little contact there with Cy Jones as well. Takes a little loop in the grass here on the exit of turn 3. Yeah, the one thing that I wish that we actually had in offline is what we have the ability here in online, where we're able to go inside of the race car, be able to see the wheel in live time. This is on board with Rodney Sullins as he's trying to gather this thing up going into turn 3. Watch the red tape there in the center of the wheel.
Told you he was doing what I call the hospital wobble, but you guys call it tank slapping, and it was even more dramatic on that from that outside the car. The thing was the back end was coming out from under it. First it was going to the right, and he brought it back, and then it was going to the left.
Great save, keeps him up inside of the top 5. This caution keeps Jim Glaude out in the race lead. Looks like we do have another driver that's going to be out of the race here. That's going to be the 96 of Dave Robbins, one of our Challenger drivers, 8th in the Challenger standings coming into this one. He was 15th, and now he has taken his car back behind the wall, so he'll instead get credited for 24th position, joining Ulysses Sandoval, Brian Ross, and John Godfrey, and Dennis McCarthy in the infield.
Attrition is taking its toll. Nothing new at Pocono either.
Getting closer to where that window would be open to make it the rest of the way. We're not quite there yet. About, 3-4 laps away. So I doubt that this would be the caution where everybody would come down pit road potentially for the final time. But we get ourselves another yellow here, depending on when we go back green. More than likely, that's going to be the final time outside of repairing crash damage that the crews are going to see their cars.
Agreed. It looks like Brian's going to come down second time, but it looks like the 62 of Ronald Lucier is going to come down, top off, and get some service here as well. Again, one caution. These guys probably within the window of making it.
Well, next Monday night, we continue on the regular season as we'll be at the D-shaped quad oval, the 1.5-mile Atlanta Motor Speedway, and Atlanta 2005 version, but also a little bit of grip added in there. And a lot of things that people look at in terms of Atlanta is the multi-groove racing that is available. The ability to, as they call it, Harvick on that inside line, but rim ride on the top there as well. What exactly do we have on tap when we get to next Monday night, especially with the type of racetracks we've been here for the last couple of weeks? A lot of drivers really clamoring for grip.
I tell you, we've run a lot of versions of Atlanta, and the '05 one is definitely one of the favorites. '97 as well, but I think we'll see a lot of different things next week coming out of these guys at Atlanta, and perhaps the return of Jeremy Jeffries and Josh Metallic. If Jeremy needs to win next week, he has to be here.
That's right, exactly.
While we got this caution, we can run down the last remaining races of this week. We got iRacing tomorrow night at Bristol with the ARCA cars. That will be a fun affair. The Aero 88 cars back in 2K3 are at Darlington 88 edition. Another this again keeping in that theme that's been going on Wednesday nights with the Aeros. That should be another fun venue at Darlington. And then Tally Challenge is back at RTG V3 on Thursday night.
So far we've had 5 races, 5 different winners in the Tally Challenge. It's getting a little congested up there for who's going to be able to get those valuable playoff positions. And going back to what you were talking about there with the Aero 88s going to a historic Darlington, I really loved when I saw that race win photo from last week at the throwback version of Daytona. Kelly Causey in the Aero 88 car at that racetrack. It just fits the old car with the old racetrack. So going to look forward to the race win photo at the conclusion of Wednesday night's race as well at the track Too Tough to Tame. As green flag back in the air, Jim Glaude going to lead us back here to the green. Gunther timed it well. He edged ahead there at the start-finish line. We'll see if he can get clear going into ones. Getting a good push from the 88 up top.
They're going to be 2 by 2. I tell you, there was a big group that did not get started at the rear. There's a bit of a gaggle in the back. Somebody had a hard time getting started, but everybody's underway and clean, and we're 2 by 2 going down the long pond. Oh, Dave Melson catches the wall, but did he save it?
Looks like he did, and looks like anybody that was to his inside gave him the room. That was Frank Rivard, gave him the space to gather it back up. That's back around the 7th, 8th position. As Gunther does complete the pass around Jim Gloud, he'll go to the point. Big hit into the wall there for Jeff Supta in the 11 off the tunnel turn.
That causes him to fan down in the short chute, and we're going to have a treacherous time getting into turn 3 here. It's
Man.
going to get tight, and they're a little bumping, and they're going to get through. Some damage there probably for the 11, but he got off the wall pretty good.
Had a quartet of drivers that kind of used the wall to keep it going, including Jeff Supta. I think Greg Palmer was another of those. Randy Waugh.
A lot of heads-up racing. They get single file for first, second, and third now, but we've still got a lot of contesting. Ooh, tire smoke from the 72 there.
Was that the downshift?
Could have been a little tire shift with a little brake on. Somebody further in the back in the field did the same thing.
All that happening through turn 3 has spread the field out quite a bit now. You've got your top 5 all single filed. Then you've got a group of 4 here with Bob LaChance, Frank Rivard, Dave Melson, and Randy Waugh. A couple car links back then to Greg Palmer and Andre Charest. Right now, LaChance in the 6th position, highest running of the Challenger drivers. I believe he would be the 4th Challenger winner on the season, as Colin Flick, Kelly Causey, and Doug Cady have all won in the Challenger Series so far this season.
I tell you, that checkup that the people in the back of the field didn't get going right away on that one. That group included Brian Schilling, who's now sitting in 22nd position, and just gained two positions on that last lap. He's up to 20th.
I also believe Tim Nofsker is back there after we saw him get spun on the front straightaway. There's the 088 and the 4, along with Colin Flick back there in the 95.
They're chasing the Krispy Kreme donuts there. Glenn Harris in the 8.
Supta, after his moment off of 2, he's now slipped back to the 16th position.
Challenge for 3rd. Denny Carroll looking to go to the inside of Jim Gloud in turn 3, but looks like Jim is going to defend that going down the front stretch.
I've been noticing a number of drivers, I think Denny Carroll has done it a couple of times, running that low line on the exit of turn 4, and it almost looks like the left rear catches the rumble strip down there just the least little bit and unsettles the race car. Is that just a visual thing, or do you actually feel that coming off the corner in the race car itself?
I used to like to do that in the other version of Pocono, and on this one here too. I mean, if it gets so tight with this grip version, if I could upset the car a little by doing that and hooking that, like Harvicking, so to speak, it may actually help you turn. It seems to be doing well for Denny tonight because he's steadily been advancing through the field.
Denny up 13 positions from where he started, back outside of the top 15 in 17th place. As Jim Gloud trying to put the pressure here on Grant Wesley. Now, just to remind everybody, the 72 and the 41, they gained their track position with the caution coming out just when they were making their pit stop. They're not at a deficit to the drivers around them. They've got, I don't even think they've got a green flag lap on their tires, so technically it's even playing field for them. It's just a matter of they came to pit road when the caution came out. Everybody else came to pit road after the caution had already flown.
Yep, those couple guys that went in just ahead of them, Frank Rivard, I think Ronald Lucier was in that group. They probably, did a couple turns really hard on their tires before the caution came out, but they managed to stay out ahead of them as well.
We're in the window. We'd be able to make it the rest of the way from here, but I doubt you'd see anybody come to pit road this early on in the going, especially with the fact that they would certainly, if anybody decides to run long, even if we got a caution, they would be at a major tire deficit for the last run to the checkers. Is Denny Carroll going to look low again here on Jim Gloud going into 3?
Rodney Sullivan's going to try to take advantage of that and get a good run off of 3.
Yeah, that little pedaling to the brake there when he got to the left rear quarter panel for Denny Carroll lost him some momentum through the center. And to your point, Sullins tried to capitalize, not able to do so just yet. Much like Michigan, Pocono a momentum track.
Checking in on the leaders here, I see Grant was drafting Nick very aggressively up the front stretch, and I think they're almost in getaway mode. I think Grant was in a position to try to make a move going into 1, but he stayed right there in Nick's tire track. So they're looking to run this thing out for a while under green.
So Grant's motive was clear when the green flag dropped. We saw him get to the race lead very quickly. He's been out in front for 26 circuits. At this point in time, though, is this a matter of trying to put the pressure on Gunther to make a mistake and he wants to be the leader when this green flag cycle begins? Or is he content to ride? Well, he's actually right now content to make sure that car's going the right way as he got loose. but is he content to ride and maybe try and save a little bit more fuel, allowing the 055 to create the draft for him?
I was thinking that because don't forget, when we talked about it, if they can't make it under fuel and we are able to keep green flag out, we're somewhere is in that half a can window. So, anything you can save could either, solidify your half can or perhaps even get you down to a splash, depending on how much we're talking about. But it looked like Grant was content to just follow Nick for that time. But right now he's content to just hold on to third and keep that car under him and regroup.
Mentioned how in turn 3, it's not as much a corner that you set up a pass, it's more a corner that you take advantage of somebody else's misfortune. That's what Jim Glaude was able to do after Grant got squirrely the last time by. He'll move now up into the second position, and right now we've got a total of 9 drivers in this lead pack. Randy Watt trying desperately to hang on to the slipstream off the back of the Wendy's Chevrolet in that 9th position. A couple of cars behind them in Greg Palmer and Andre Charest. But how far back do we go here, Sean, if we continue to run this race green? How far back do we go before we start getting to the conversation of drivers that don't have a shot at the victory unless a caution comes out?
Well, I'll tell you, it's exactly what I'm thinking about. Sight the lightning alert there. So anyway, if I'm in that, out of the lead draft position, I'm looking for friends. Hey, if we get 3-4 guys that can do this, let's pit halfway through this run and let's get out there, draft together. A, pray for a caution, and then B, see what happens,
Andre Charest going to make the pass here around Greg Palmer. That'll be for the 10th position. And, we've talked about a bunch of drivers like Denny Carroll. We saw Brian Schilling up earlier as Grant's up and into the wall here in 3.
Good job getting off the wall without coming down the track too much. Randy Waugh is going to come in and be the last one to try to get in position on him, and he will. That's the second time we saw Grant have problems under braking.
Yeah, and I've got to wonder, we talk so much about the tire heat in the right front, but when you go into a slide, a lot of tire heat is built up in that right rear. Does that just exacerbate the issue when you get to turn 3 the following laps, and that's what we kind of maybe are seeing here out of the 88?
It does. You've got to get it cooled off there, and it is. Turn 3 is so hard to get the car set, especially if you're either A, defending, or B, trying to get in position. The phrase I like to tell drivers here is be ready. Be ready for anything. Be ready for the car to come out from under you in any one of these turns, but be ready to make your pass, because if the guy is in front of you is going to make that mistake, that's the best way to get the position. So you want to be able to take advantage as soon as you see that. So you can't rest on your laurels. You've got to be almost in ready position.
Saw Denny Carroll run almost a defensive line there, going into 3, making sure that Sullins couldn't get a run to his inside to look for the 3rd spot, but was going to mention before Grant had his moment there, we talked about Brian Schilling making up a lot of track position with some strategy after starting at the rear of the field, and Denny Carroll's done a good job of moving up through the field as well. How about Bob LaChance? He's passed a lot of cars here tonight. He started out back in the 24th position and right now holding the final spot inside of the top 5.
I was going to mention before when one of the cautions came out, Bob is a solid racer and seems to be on these technical, I think he seems to love the technical tracks, the flatter tracks. Always see Bob in contention at these tracks.
Not a bad road course racer from what I remember as well, and a lot of drivers say, and I don't see it myself, but a lot of drivers say that these corners kind of remind them of taking a corner at a road course, and so it kind of fits right into their wheelhouse.
Very much. You can count me amongst those. Very, very much so. I've always loved this place. And Jim Glaude, first one onto pit road.
From 2nd place.
By himself, though, so we're going to have to see how this works out. We are right in that window. We're halfway through that fuel run.
Whoa!
Bob LaChance pulling off.
What is going on with the 51? Oh, this looks like hardware issue.
Does. We'd curse Bob. We're just talking about looks like a wheel disconnection like we saw was that Donnie Garrett in Thursday night's race.
Fortunately, that car directed down to the inside, made contact with that Armco barrier, and gonna spin around. I don't know with the 26
yellow
there.
Wasn't out, but did it come out now? It did.
I think it might have. Yep, caution is indeed out with the 26 in the vicinity with the 51 going around. And look who's going to benefit from this again. Jim Glaude, man.
He needed help, and I was thinking other cars. But no, he needed the yellow flag. This is going to work out stupendously for Jim.
In the fuel window, stays on the lead lap. Everybody's going to have to come to pit road for fuel, but he's going to cycle up to the front once again. Back-to-back cautions going to benefit the 72 car. You can get lucky once. Very rarely at a track like Pocono do you get lucky twice.
And he only went from second to first. He was having a great run, because of the last track position. But Jim's been up there in the mix the entire night. And so he only gains one position, but it's a really big position.
Another driver that was up there for a good portion of, especially the second half of this race, was Bob LaChance. We'll go back here and look, and you'll see how this car just darts to the left right there.
Good job by Frank Rivard and everybody else following him to recognize the problem. Even Cyber coming off pit road. Yeah, that is completely a disconnection. It looks like the wheel and pedals, maybe have gone down to desktop, and the car just went along its way.
Yeah, you'll see right here where the car kind of blinks. I believe right there is bringing it back up from desktop. You can see he's back in control as well. And we probably would have stayed under green, but right here, there's just no grip in the grass. He goes around, and with the 26 right there of Billy Elliser in the neighborhood, that's why the caution comes out.
And that's tough. And there's nothing more frustrating. You want to get going, and the grass is cruel. And he didn't even spin it all the way around. Just the timing of the 26 of Billy Elliser coming by. That was all it needed to see for the caution.
So Jim Glaude is 22nd. By the time they come around to turn 1, he will more than likely be the race leader, as everybody else is coming down pit road. And this could be an important pit stop for all these drivers too, right? For the upcoming restart. Last time you're on pit road, this is going to kind of determine where you're going to be in setting up to run for the win.
This is the money stop. I don't see these guys going back on pit road again tonight.
This pit road is very spacious. The pit boxes are somewhat roomy, but it can get congested.
Look for the 4. Look at the 4 coming out. Let's see. Will we see 2 tires
nope,
again?
Nope, he went with 4. Dave might have gone with 2, though.
Dave Melson took 2. Denny Carroll may have also taken 2.
I think he did.
Bobby Farrell absolutely took 2.
So did Glenn Harris in the 8. I believe Mark Pagley in the 28 went with 2-tire strategy. So we had a mixed bag there.
You can do it from here. I mean, certainly 4 is the preferred choice. Matter of fact, Jeff Soup and I were talking pre-race, talking race strategy and stuff like that, which I really enjoy doing, especially now from this perspective. And, Jeff's opinion as well as mine, 2 tires are possible, but, if you have the chance to get 4, take the 4. It looks like Brian Schilling made that decision to go with the 4 there. This could all work in advantage of Jim Glaude because he'll be the leader with 4 freshies.
So Glaude, Melson, Carroll, Farrell, and Sullins going to be the top 5 here for the upcoming restart. See the 7 of Cy Jones coming up. He was the only driver a lap down, so he will get the lucky dog. The only lucky dog that we've had so far here tonight. All our other cautions, everybody's been on the lead lap at the time. And we will have all of our remaining drivers, 23 in total, on the lead lap for this upcoming restart.
So I'll ask you, what do you think is coming next?
I think a lot of drivers that have found themselves mired back in traffic that are going to be desperate to get back up there. I mean, you look at Grant Wesley, he's led the most laps here tonight, had a couple of wheels set wrong in turn 3. Right now, looks like he's going to restart in, scoring's got him 7th. You got Nick Gunther back there, who was the leader when that caution came out.
Dave Melson peeled off and pitted there. He may have only gotten 2 tires, wanted the other 2. That'll help Nick Gunther for sure.
I think you're also going to see that 4 of Brian Schilling, the 0-8 of Tim Nofsker, they're going to be fighting up through the field here as well. Seen a lot of give and take here in the early going of this race, specifically over there in turn 3. I think we're starting to now shift the weight where there's going to be a lot more take than give, because we're getting to the point where you can't wait any longer.
No, this is it, and you just got to, you've obviously these guys are pros. You've seen this do week in week again. They're going to use their heads, but if they're going to take, if there was a chance, they're definitely going to take it this time. Where last time, it would have been think about it. It's time to go.
What a
Go where? I don't
difference.
know, but it's time to go.
What a difference a caution period makes. Bob LaChance was up there inside of the top 5 before he had his issue. We were looking at him to potentially be the one that was going to take the win here for the challenger side, but now you've got Bobby Farrell in 3rd, Glenn Harris up here in 6th. Colin Flick's not out of it. He's going to restart in 10th, so this battle for the challenger win isn't over either.
I tell you, with 7 laps to go and the frequency of the yellow flag's been coming out, these moves by Glenn and company and Bobby, are, see how it nets out at the end, depending on cautions where they are and if they stay out or not. This could be a huge benefit for them. But we're going to see a bunch of people. I see Grant Wesley. He's going to be looking to gain quite a few spots here early. There's going to be some hard chargers.
All drivers have made their final pit stops in terms of fuel. Only time we'll see them on pit road from now to the checkered flag is if they're coming down to repair crash damage. As Jim Glaude elects the outside line here for this restart. Pretty smart, get a good enough launch. You have a nice arc down to turn 1 if you can clear the 41. He'll be the control car. Denny Carroll in 2nd place will be on the inside line. Then Bobby Farrell, Rodney Sullins, Nick Gunther, your top 5. Green flag in the air. Here we go. 8 laps remaining at Pocono.
Jim got a great start, but Bobby Farrell was pushing Denny Carroll at the start, which helps them get going as well, too. Looks like we're 3 or 4 wide already on this wide front straightaway. See how it's going to funnel into turn 1.
I think they were 4 for a brief moment as Glaude will clear for the spot. Side by side will be 2nd. Sullins trying to swing around the outside of Denny Carroll. Stack him up behind in the 4th position battle. That's Bobby Farrell low, Nick Gunther high. And caution is out. Trouble on the back straightaway there. 62 of Ronald Lucey was around in front of traffic.
Here. They will be racing back here with care. So this is still battling for positions here. Nick Gunther wasted no time going to the outside of Bobby Farrell there. Got rid of him. He's going to try to take care of Denny Carroll here going into 3.
Whoa,
Looks like,
Denny!
Oh, boy. He's going to save it. That is
Wow.
a big drift and save. He's not done yet. He's not done yet, and he's done.
Oh,
he's not done yet. He's not done yet. He's in the grass. I'm not going to say
we're
it.
good.
All right, we're good. Okay, so heck of a save, and but we have a big mess I think to sort out there on the front on the Long Pond straightaway.
Lost
I know
track
I see the
position,
62
but
is involved.
at least he's still got a car to fight with.
Jim Glaude will still be your leader.
Mark Paglia slow here going into turn 3. Tim Nofsker, Colin Flick, I believe those were a couple of drivers involved. They were on the outside line for the restart, and I don't see the 62.
He has taken it to the garage, but
Yeah,
looks like the incident began ahead of him.
Oh, okay. He was the one I saw out of shape. Didn't see where it all started, so we'll go back and see if we can find out exactly what occurred.
It found Ronald. It was ahead of him, but then as Ronald was going by, they got together.
Look around the 28 of Mark Paglia as we are 3 wide here off the corner. That's Colin Flick who got squeezed into the outside wall. Nofsker gets into it.
They did a great job at first with the first contact of getting themselves sorted out, but there's such a pinch point and such a load on the right front when you're coming out of here out of turn 1 that as they're going 3 and 4 wide here, it's just you run out of room.
If we go back here to the entrance of turn 1, I think there might have been some prior contact between Paglia and Flick through the center of the corner as Paglia drifts up the track. So there was a save right there before we even got to the exit of the corner.
Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about, as that was gathering on ahead of Ronald, and then they checked up because they were gathering each other up. Looked like the other Ronald, Hagelin made it underneath, Brian Schilling made it underneath, and Greg Palmer was making it underneath as him and Ronald came along, and there was just contact.
Tough break there for Ronald Lucey. Gets clipped in the right rear quarter panel, and that sends him around in front of traffic. We'll look from the chopper cam as nowhere to go for Tim Nofsker as well.
We got lucky with some single car incidents tonight, but when it happens there, it is very tough to have it be a single car incident.
Little contact as well for Bob Dixon and Jeff Supta, as Supta got into the back of the 143. Both were trying to slow for the wreck there up against the outside wall. One driver that got through there pretty nicely was the 75 of Andre Charest. Let's go on board with his Ford Mustang. This is what he saw.
This is going to be fun.
Boy, it's like he knew. He kept it as low as he could all the way through that corner.
Just made it.
Leave another driver that was able to get through there as well. Will give us a good ride is the Wendy Chevrolet of Dave Melson. But you can hear that feathering the throttle. It's basically the engine echoing the driver saying, please don't come down, please don't come down.
All that on the heels of that epic turn and a half long save by Denny Carroll.
Yeah, Denny going to be all the way back in 19th place, but at least the good news for him is he didn't make contact with anybody, so his car is still in one piece. Although you consider the fact that we're going to be going back green south of 5 laps to go, so it's going to be very difficult to get all of those positions back. Nigh on impossible. He can maybe get a couple of spots back here before the checkered flag flies, but effectively the great save, losing all those spots, is going to take him out of the conversation for the race win.
One driver I noticed did manage to gain a bunch of positions during this as it cycles out is Brian Schilling. Found himself now in 6th position as the lights are out. We're going to get the green with 4 laps to go.
Jim's going to take the outside line here again, which I think is a good decision on 2 counts. One, he got a great launch on the last restart, but secondly, you pointed out how Bobby Farrell gave a great shove to Denny Carroll in that inside line. And if he's able to time it correctly here and hook up with that Mustang ahead of him, that could really benefit Jim Glaude to maybe have that inside line clear before they even get to the entrance of turn 1.
And these guys know in all likelihood this is the final restart. We have not had a lot of success at keeping the green flag out, especially under these situations where everybody's desperate to gain last positions because the pay window is wide open now. It's all going to be about how well a launch Jim gets, if Bobby's able to get him a push, because Nick and Rodney are going to be coming hard on that inside.
So to your point there, with this potentially being the final restart, we'll just give the forewarning here. If trouble breaks out, we'll go back and we'll document it either under the final pacing laps or after the race is concluded. We will stay up at the front as it is race back, and if next flag ends the race, we want to keep an eye up here at the front of the field and see who's going to get back to either that we hope checkered flag or potentially the race-ending caution. Is Jim Glaude. He's, I remember that we joked about the passing of the golden horseshoe from car to car. For a time, Grant Wesley had it, and then Brian Schilling had it, and then Jeremy Jeffries had it. I think maybe Jim Glaude may have it in his car here tonight, benefiting on the timing of 2 yellows, has gained all this track position and is up front late when it matters the most.
Jim's run a perfect race. Hopefully he brings it home with a solid finish. Hopefully even the win for him. He's, like I said, he's been up there all night. He's made the right calls at the right time. He's made some great saves in the process, and we're getting ready to find out.
He's 22nd in points. A win could put him into playoff conversation. Rodney Sullins, who's trying to get his way up into the top 12 in the stands, looking for his first win this season, will be on the inside line in second. Green flag back in the air. We're going to be having 4 laps to go here. 10 miles remain at Pocono.
There was a big gap behind Jim on this restart, and Nick and Rodney got a great push and go, and we'll see what happens here coming through turn 1. Nick thought about taking the 3 wide.
We got a wreck up in turn 1. One driver massively hit the outside wall. Will continue to race here for turn 2.
They are racing back. Will Jim be able to clear Rodney for the tunnel? And it looks like he will not. He's going to have to take the hard way around as Frank Rivard thinks about taking it 3 wide.
Brian Schilling ripping the top there. He's going to try to get to the right rear quarter panel of Gunther off the tunnel turn. Gunther slams the door. We're still deadlocked for the race lead.
Gunther does not know where to go. He's looking to see which one of these guys has the advantage. He chooses the outside, then cuts it to the inside as we're coming in. We're going to hope for no contact here. Jim's going to try to hold the outside and roll it off the turn. This is going to be a drag race here to the finish, Seth.
Jim Glaude edges ahead, clears. Sullins is going to tuck to second. Gunther crosses the line in third. That caution may have just ended this race. Jim Glaude may have just had the best 2.5 miles of his life right there in a dogfight with Rodney Sullins. Turn 3 was where he gained the advantage to have the race lead. Now we wait to see if these final 5 miles are going to be run under caution. If so, Jim Glaude will be picking up his first win on the season.
Oh, it's a virtual certainty, and I cannot wait to interview this man in Victory Lane. He executed everything. He did everything right. He couldn't have run that last lap any better under extreme, extreme pressure. Tough to make it around here, even on a regular restart. That was he earned this one, every bit of it.
That was impressive by both drivers, him and Rodney Sullins, to be double wide from the front straightaway all the way to the entrance of turn 3. It's tough enough to go double wide in one of those corners on the lap. They did it in 2 sets of corners.
Ryan Schilling and Nick Gunther were hungry and very hungry, and they just could not, there was no opening. Those guys were too wide, and to take them 3 wide would have been tough, and they showed restraint, but they wanted to go. You could tell they had the horses and wanted to try to get position, but Jim just rolled that outside and came off perfectly. Rodney did a great job staying off him, getting everything he could and defending. So it's the 3rd place and the 2nd place for Rodney.
It's like Dave Melson getting up into Andre Charest. Bob LaChance had a moment further back as well. And as that all culminated in turn 1, we had that great battle all the way around the racetrack there for the race win. We'll take a look again here at the 038, and then we'll see what happened to the 51 a little bit further behind, that black Chevrolet. I don't know if he got help or if maybe he got loose under braking with the incident happening ahead of him.
Looking to see now. I'd say a lot of cautions, but there was some exciting racing.
Absolutely was. Here's a look at the 51 of LaChance. I don't think anyone was... nope, he gets a little assistance there. A little tap from behind by Bob Dixon.
Looked like there was a simultaneous incident there, something going on just in front of them at the same time.
Take another look here from the aerial view. See the 038 just kind of ride up the hill a little bit right there.
So, you want to get everything you can there. Just all she took, and the front end just slid. You could see it slide all the way up. Says, I am not turning.
Colin Flick and Billy Ellis are making a little contact with each other. Mark Pagli almost got into Andre Charest as he migrated down the racetrack a little bit as well, but everybody else able to get through unscathed and hold the phone here, Sean. We've got lights out. We're getting a 1-lap dash.
That is interesting and amazing. We are going to have another 1-lap shootout. Does Jim have a second one in him?
We're going to have to
Brian
see
Schilling
here.
lining up behind him.
Boy, they were able to stay double wide for about a little more than 2/3 of a lap were Sullins and Glaude. And we saw a tremendous patience out of Gunther and Schilling, who both, one wanted to take it 3 wide on the bottom, one wanted to rip the top 3 wide. They just didn't have anywhere to go. Now we'll have to see how much restraint they're going to have here as we get into these heavier braking zones. Yeah, Frank Rivard in 5th. Bobby Farrell still hanging on there in the 6th position. Highest running of our Challenger drivers. Greg Palmer in 7th. Grant Wesley, who's led the most laps here tonight, mired back in traffic. Right now he's in 8th with Glenn Harris and Randy Waugh, the top 10. Jeff Supta, not going to be the night that he wants. He was up here at the front inside of the top 5 for most of the first half of this race, but he's got a shot at the top 10 as he'll restart in 11th on this final lap. It's the white flag and the green flag at the same time.
Again, a big gap behind the 72 on the restart. And this time Rodney gets an even better restart. So let's see how this goes into turn 1.
Can Rodney clear him going into the first corner? Jim going to try and lean on his right rear. Rodney's going to get clear of both lanes. Gunther now, he might get clear as well into the 2nd spot. It's going to be Sullins versus Gunther as Glaude drifts back to 3rd.
Jim's going to look to the inside, Nick Gunther, which may help Rodney here as they get to the tunnel if Jim gets in position. But Jim's going to tuck in behind Nick and try to get him on the exit of the tunnel.
Side by side for 4th. Now give that to Schilling as he'll get around Rivard. Gunther now slides to the inside of Sullins. It's all going to come down to the execution in turn 3.
Nick's got position. He's going to clear Rodney going into turn 3. Now he's got to try to hold the bottom, which looks like he does, and get back on the throttle.
Schilling loose. Off of 3. Nick Gunther going to pick up his second win of the season. He'll take the checkers at Pocono. Sullins will get second, and Jim Glau will bring it home in third.
Looks like they're all going to make it back clean, too.
Yes, they did. We finished that final lap under green. Second multi-time winner on the season, and Nick Gunther got his first win back at Nashville Superspeedway. Home track win for him here tonight in the Pocono Mountains. As it really came down to the momentum off of turn 2, he was able to clear Sullins before they got to turn 3. And Sullins was hoping Gunther would make a mistake to capitalize, cross him over, get the lead back. But Gunther was able to keep him at bay, and that was a great save there by Brian Schilling as he almost was able to snipe third from Jim Glaude.
It sure was. Jim's still going to salvage a podium out of it, and we'll get to talk to him. I imagine he'll be disappointed that he didn't get to hold off the win, but he still ran a spectacular race.
Jim Glaude might be the only driver in the field here tonight that does not like the new EXE for cautions, because otherwise that race would have ended under yellow for him.
Most definitely. And Rodney Sullins got a third place last week. He's going to get himself second place this week.
Yeah, back-to-back great runs for that 38. That'll now move him up above the cut line in terms of the playoffs in preparation for Atlanta next week. Gunther came into this race 10th in points with his victory a couple of weeks ago. And this now pretty much solidifies him into the postseason. Jim Glaude as well, I believe there were a couple of races that he didn't make. He was 22nd in points, but the points around him are super close. I mean, I think there's only 20 points separating where he is up to 15th in the standings. So third place, I think he's going to leap up through the point standings, maybe up right in the conversation of that top 12.
Certainly could be, because there's a lot of movement going on here.
Only a handful of races left here in the regular season as well. Atlanta, Rockingham, and Infineon. That's it.
Looks like Bobby Farrell may have taken home the challenge.
Yes, he did. Well done. 7th place. 1 position ahead of Glenn Harris, 1 position ahead of Colin Flick, 1 position ahead of Cy Jones. That's just how close the Challenger battle always seems to be, too.
Certainly was, and they're all going to pick up a little bit of a gain here tonight, too.
Nick Gunther with a lengthy burn on the front straightaway. Now he'll be headed for victory lane. Let's show you the official results from tonight as we'll be talking with our top 3, Gunther, Sullins, and Glaude. 3 drivers led led double-digit laps here tonight. Gunther, 16, Glaude, 14. Grant Wesley, who finishes 6th, led a race-high 27. I believe that everybody inside of the top 7 led a lap with the exception of Rodney Sullins, as Brian Schilling led 3, finishes 4th. Frank Rivard led 3, he'll finish top 5 and 5th. Mentioned about Farrell getting that Challenger win in 6th. And then Glenn Harris, Colin Flick, and Cy Jones. Let's remember, Cy Jones was the only driver tonight who needed to get a lucky dog to get back on the lead lap and battle back for a top 10. That is a great drive for that Sunoco machine. Greg Palmer in 11th. Tim Nofsker will get 12th. Billy Elliser ran rear of the field most of the evening. He'll bring it home in 13th with Randy Waugh and Andre Charest, the rest of the top 15. Dave Melson, Bob LaChance, who had the issues late, finishes 17th. Mark Paglia in 18th. Jeff Supta, all the way back in 19th place after starting this race from the pole. Denny Carroll also ran up front most of the night, finishes in 20th, with Ron Hagelin and Bob Dixon, the last drivers that finished this race, all finished on the lead lap. Half dozen drivers in the garage area with Ronald Lucet, Dave Robbins, Ulysses Sandoval, Brian Rawson, John Godfrey, who came into this race the cut line driver, 12th in the standings, and Dennis McCarthy did not reach the conclusion.
We had a record-shattering 10 cautions tonight, unfortunately, but some exciting racing in between for sure. You talk about Cyber Jones. Cyber let the lucky dog off the leash, and he just charged right up there. And Cyber, he'll sleep you into that and thinking he's just going to be around doing the Cyber thing. Thursday night, we're at Tally Challenge, and I'm needing to get from the back towards the front, and I look in my rearview mirror, and who's pushing me all the way up the front? Cyber Jones.
So great runs for a number of drivers that didn't look like they were in line to finish up inside of the top 10, and they're going to net some really good results and some very valuable points heading into Atlanta next week. Let's see if we can head on down and dial up our podium finishers. Let's get a hold of the guy that brought us to the green on the 2 previous restarts. He'll bring it home in the 3rd position. Let's dial up the 72 of Jim Gloud.
User was moved to
Hey
your
Jim, it's
channel.
Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Man, I'll tell you what, just one lap too many here tonight for that final restart. You did a great job of holding Rodney off on that next to last restart. You're the control car coming to this final restart. What little more do you need to keep them at bay for another 2.5 miles?
If I would have had Brian a little bit closer behind me, it would have been a little better. But you know what? It was a good, tight race. They raced me clean, and unfortunately, almost got me one, but not quite.
Well, we thought you had it there, Jim. Earlier, matter of fact, we were celebrating with you, and regardless of that, you ran a great race, a perfect race. You played your strategy right. You were up there running all night. You had great, clean racing. You had to make crazy saves. You did it all. So, 3rd place is nothing to shake a stick at, sir. And you put on a heck of a show for everybody tonight.
Yeah, it was a blast. Everybody was doing pretty good. There we had too many cautions, but that track just brings on a lot of good racing.
One thing that we noticed here tonight, it's so difficult to predict when the cautions are going to fly, and you not once but twice made the call to come to pit road on the exact optimal lap when the caution flew. A lot of times you got to get a little bit lucky here, but man, to be able to do that twice, what does that got to say for like the mindset of knowing just exactly how to play the strategy at a track as difficult where strategies vary all the times like Pocono?
Well, what was going through my head was I know it's a long track, so I knew I wasn't going to get lapped. I was far enough ahead, and I figured that, well, hell, if a caution comes out before I get on pit lane, I'm going to have to run through. But luckily, both times I was actually on pit lane when it came out, so I knew I was going to end up front for the start, and just had to do my job. I was a little short.
Gained some valuable track position, were able to maintain it, bring it home with a solid 3rd place run here tonight after having that mellow yellow machine out in clean air for 14 circuits at the Tricky Triangle. Tremendous drive out of him tonight, Jim. Congratulations on the job well done. We'll now give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for doing this, Sean. You're doing an awesome job up there. And say shout out to my brothers Rick and Clarence out there. I know they're watching, and thanks for putting this on for us, guys.
That's
Thanks
Jim
for giving
Gloud.
us a heck of a run.
Absolutely. Jim Gloud, 3rd place here this evening in the Pocono Mountains. He'll look to ride this momentum into Atlanta next week. Let's see if we can dial up the driver that brings it home inside the top 5 for the 2nd straight week. Runner-up finish tonight for Rodney Sullins.
User was moved to
Hey Rodney,
your
it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do, fellas. How you doing?
Well, I mean, first off, congratulations. We didn't see you in the first 3 cautions here tonight. You were able to go to the front, stay at the front all night long. Solid, stout Chevrolet. Had a great side-by-side battle there coming to what we thought was going to be the race-ending caution, but not quite there with Jim. And then had a shot to be able to clear him, hold off Nick Gunther. What little more did you need? Because it kind of looked like maybe turn 2, maybe a little slip up there opened up the door.
That's what made turn 2 is my best corner at this track, and that's the first time the only time tonight that I touched the apron, and it was then the absolute worst time. But turn 2 is my best turn, and so I'm just bummed. I mean, Nick's a great guy. He's fast. He knows he could have got me in turn 3, but I shouldn't have missed that corner. That's what's got me a little bit bummed out. But yeah, it was nice to get to race all night and not have to drive around with a wrecked car for a while. So that's an improvement.
Well, yeah, heck of a run. You shouldn't hang your head so low, Rodney. You had a perfect restart on that final one, actually the last 2, and that's what really did it for you. We called it as soon as you got on the gas. I said that we thought you were going to clear Jim going into turn 1. We were not expecting that final restart, but then you guys put on a heck of a show for us for sure.
Yeah, it was. This is a fun track. We had I don't know how many cautions we had, but we had too many. This thing is a lot of fun to get out there and run around. Once you get spread out, you kind of do a little drafting and, make a few passes and stuff. So I was disappointed with how many cautions we had, but those last couple of restarts, man, it was, white knuckled, heart pounding. That was worth the whole night.
Oh, you had us standing, sir. You definitely did. It was just like I said, hats off to you. Greatly executed. Yes, too many cautions for sure. But third place last week, second place this week. Atlanta next week. Rodney, what do you think?
Oh, I love Atlanta. Love Atlanta.
Well, some great momentum. I mean, we go back to 2-3 races in. We were talking about you down outside of the top 20 in points. You came in tonight just below the cut line, easily going to be above the cut line in preparation for Atlanta next week. Good momentum here in this 38 camp. A solid run for you here tonight, Rodney. Congratulations on second place. And before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I missed a couple of races this season, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So kind of put myself in a hole trying to dig it out. But thanks to you guys, FRN, Seth, Prime. Can't wait to go back and listen to this one, especially the last part of the race there. That's got to be pretty exciting. We had a good run and then those two finishes. So thank you guys. I'm really looking forward to it. RTG owners, Bones, Prime again. Appreciate you guys for what you do, keeping this thing open. This is a phenomenal place to race. I'm glad I was pointed this direction when I returned a few years ago. Again, Prime, Jeremy, the admins of this series, the Barebones series, and Jeremy, if you're listening or if you wind up listening to this later, I hope you get to feeling better, man. We missed you tonight. All the admins here at Rolling Thunder Gaming and the drivers, Josh and Tim, my cohorts on Thursday, my Burnt Screwdrivers teammates, Black Rifle Coffee, Havana Brisa, Shinko Diecast. Dad, I don't know if you were out there. You may have forgot that we're broadcasting on Mondays. If you were there, hope you enjoyed it. Love you. Talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Well, we appreciate you too, there, sir. And we didn't see Al in the chat tonight, but I'm sure he'll be catching up with it.
He's probably sleeping. He probably forgot. Thanks, guys.
Well, Rodney Sullins brought it home third place last week at Michigan, second tonight at Pocono. He'll head into Atlanta looking for that one position better, chasing that first checkered flag of season 65. Congratulations once again on the great performance here tonight, Rodney. Best of luck next week.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Rodney Sullivan's runner-up finish
User
here
was moved out of your
tonight.
channel.
Second time this season, we have a multi-time winner in the Barebones Racing Series. Second career win. Nick Gunther this evening at Pocono. Let's see if we can go down to victory lane and dial him up.
User was moved to your
Hey Nick,
channel.
it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yo, what's up?
Hometown victory for you here tonight. Second victory on the season, but man, had to execute a lot of patience in those last couple of restarts. Some fast machines and yourself and Brian Schilling with nowhere to go with them stacked up double wide. You finally find a clear path there with the 38 sliding up off of turn 2 and were able to get the momentum into turn 3. But how difficult was it balancing the aggression and the patience there when we were coming down to the wire?
Patience 404 not found on me, I'm afraid. on the very end there, especially since it was like all night. It just seemed like it'd be so hard to pass a leader. I could probably pass like other people. I just can't pass the leader for some reason. Because if I do, I'd probably get punished from behind. So I didn't even bother like trying to pass. You probably saw me like stay behind Grant Wesley multiple times. I didn't want to go risk making such a audacious move and just take both of us ourselves out that early on in the race.
Yep, it is. We talked about it all night that it is difficult to pass here, as big and wide as this place is, especially near the front. You do definitely need help. Now I want to bring you back to the since we got to call the finish here twice tonight. The first time we called the finish, so the next to last restart, we saw you. Look at you were boxed in. You thought about going 3 wide on the outside, but you pretty much you were trying to get to someplace, but there was no place to go, and you did a great job of just staying contained. And then we got another restart. You were able to get the opening to get to the front.
Yeah, I had no choice but to just stay where I was at. I wasn't gonna go dump people for a win because I'm not like that or anything like that. I'm not gonna do that on purpose. Of course, I'm gonna race you hard, as Seth would know. I'm gonna race you hard, but I'm not gonna do everything I can to not take you out.
We ended up seeing a couple of cautions come out at some interesting times, and of course, that caution that set us up for the final restart was maybe one of the big ones, but also we ended up having a caution come out when you guys were going to have to start considering making green flag pit stops. We saw Jim Gloud make the dive onto pit road from second. Caution comes out, benefits him in the track position, but We were kind of wondering if drivers were going to have varying strategies of maybe trying to split that final run in half, if they were going to run it all the way to the fuel number and come to pit road, just take on, I think we calculated you guys were going to have to take on about a can of fuel. Where were you in terms of that strategy? If we hadn't seen that caution come out and we had seen you guys have to play out those green flag pit stop strategies to the end, did you have a set strategy in mind, or were you kind of waiting to see what others were going to do behind you?
I mean, a magician never reveals his secrets, for one thing. But I think the play that everyone was probably going to try to go for at the very end, or at least behind me, was they were probably going to take 2 tires and one can of fuel. I might have gone for the 1.5 because I want insurance, but CTS fall off is kind of huge here, of course, especially for a huge fuel saving track here like Pocono. It's a lot of fuel mileage races over here in this track, and in real life, both in sim and in real life, of course. So you have to really take that into consideration there.
Yeah, we saw a lot of the usual Pocono things. You have always got to be aware of fuel. You don't want to speed and you don't want to run out of fuel here. And you always got to be aware of turn 3 and checking up where you don't expect to have to check up. And you did a heck of a job tonight, hung in there all night. And when the opportunity came and the window was open, you were able to pounce and bring it home first. So congratulations again, Nick.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sean. Yeah, I mean, I just wish we didn't have all those cautions tonight. I mean, I was hoping to actually we were actually so close to getting to that green flag pit stop window. I was really hoping for something like that to at least occur, because that's usually when all the cautions usually stop, is when everyone gets to that green flag pit stop. It's like, okay, we shouldn't have a very low chance of having a caution now, but we were just so close to getting there.
Amazingly, we've had a lot of caution-free races in this series. I don't know if it ever at Pocono, but last time we raced it was only 3 yellows, but we broke that record tonight. But again, in between some great racing, and you can never predict when they're going to happen, so you got to be prepared for all options.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, congratulations on the victory here tonight. Second on the season in this Mazda. And we'll let you get back to your celebrating here in just a moment. But first, we're going to hand the mic over to you for some Victory Lane thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, all right. First off, gotta thank, of course, the people at Fortnite Squad Racing, always providing a fast Mazda. Unfortunately, my teammate Ulysses Sandoval unfortunately had a 4th gear issue on the first lap of the race. That's why you see him drop all the way back there, and he was running in 3rd gear the entirety of the time, and that's when the engine went kaput. So that's unfortunate there for him. He didn't have a great race because of that. I also want to go thank the guys over at you guys at RTG for allowing me to come here and express my my experience and my talents. Of course, I understand I could be a bit of a handful, but yeah, I mean, also as well, I got to thank the Square D, of course, the Schneider Electric, my YouTube channel, MimDQ787B. We are actually almost I would say about a quarter of the way up through our final season of our NASCAR Thunder 2000 career mode. So go check it out, of course. I'm also going to thank my job over at Eastern Auto Parts Warehouse. I was going to debut a car for that tonight, but I didn't have time to go paint it. And I think there was something about paint scheme, so I'm going to have to wait for that for at least a little while, because I know car file manager, I think, might be down or so. I think that's what I've heard. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean.
You are correct. We are still working on that and hoping the good guys at Race LM will have it back for us shortly.
Okay. And also, it's kind of stinks for Rodney to just make that one crucial mistake at the very end there. I was hoping to have him and I have a good side-by-side battle for the win there. We almost had put on quite a show there between the two of us. But yeah, I just can't wait for the next one here at I can't even talk anymore.
Atlanta next week.
Atlanta, yep. But Nick, congratulations on the victory here tonight. Hard-fought victory. Bring it home for your 2nd win of the season, and look to build on that momentum heading into Atlanta next week, climbing your way up through the point standings as well. Go and enjoy this victory.
Absolutely. I'm going to be drinking tonight, so hopefully I'll be okay to drive tomorrow.
Nick Gunther, your winner here this evening in the Pocono Mountains,
User was moved out
of the Philadelphia area, so a home track win for him tonight at the Tricky Triangle. 2nd multi-time winner on the season here, Sean. Only 3 drivers have been able to go to victory lane so far this season, with Atlanta on the horizon next week. I'm still betting the house on Jeremy Jeffries. I think we're still having him win every other race. The smart money seems to be on him, but with all that we know about Atlanta and what it can bring to the table, especially based off what we've seen in terms of strategy, last week at Michigan, here tonight at Pocono, where do we fall in terms of Atlanta maybe giving us that surprise winner?
Well, again, with CTS physics, the draft is a play, and Atlanta is no stranger to using the draft. I'm sure we will see the usual suspects. I wouldn't bet against Mr. Jeffries or that whole crew that we've seen up here this season. But either way, it's going to be exciting. I think we're going to see a lot more movement because we're getting closer and closer to the playoffs.
We for sure are going to see movement in the point standings after tonight. A number of drivers that weren't in the field here this evening, including our top 2 in overall standings. Some drivers running into some hard luck that were around that cut line. Expect to see an entirely different looking top 12 when we get to Atlanta next week. But a wild one here tonight with an exciting finish at Pocono Raceway. Thank you all for tuning into our coverage here tonight as Nick Gunther picks up his second win of his career here at the Tricky Triangle. Again, next Monday night, we'll be back here at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, continuing on the regular season for Season 65 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Barebones Racing Series from the D-shaped quad oval known as the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Myself and Sean going to be bringing you coverage of that one. But until then, thanks so much for tuning in to our coverage here tonight, here on FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed